Chapter 381. Mo Yuxian was so angry that her lips turned blue. She trembled and could not speak. She could not wait to strangle Qinhao to death. But, the rules of the war zone allowed her to maintain her last shred of rationality. If there's no prize, I'm too lazy to fight. 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. Do you dare to bet? Qinhao's expression changed, and his handsome face flashed with a wisp of coldness and arrogance as he spoke with a trace of provocation. Crash! Countless onlookers burst into an uproar when they heard Qinhao's words. Ah! So he wants to bet. It's not that he doesn't dare to fight. 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. That's not a small number. Could this kid be from the central continent? It seems that his combat strength must be very strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to bet 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. How strong can he be? This kid is really arrogant. He's only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, while Mo Yuxian is at the late stage of the primordial spirit realm. She's the second strongest among the younger generation of our heavenly mist city. Does he think that he'll definitely win? I think he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even the monstrous geniuses of the central continent wouldn't dare to do that. After entering the primordial spirit realm, the difficulty of challenging someone of a higher level would increase exponentially. The difference between the early stage and the late stage was like heaven and earth. Even if this mysterious young man had the ability to challenge someone of a higher level, it was only against ordinary cultivators. How could he, who was 2 levels lower, defeat a top genius like Mo Yuxian, 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones? Do you dare to bet? After a brief moment of shock, Mo Yuxian's eyes shone with excitement as she stared at Qinhao. Not only was she not afraid, she even increased the stakes, 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. Qinhao seemed to be a little hesitant. He frowned slightly as if he was thinking. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, even if I lose, I still have a few 100,000 primal crystal stones. It's enough to play for a while. He suddenly looked up at Mo Yuxian and said loudly, why not? It's just 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. That expression, that tone, no matter how one looked at it, it was like he was an arrogant but brainless hedonistic disciple. He actually exposed his wealth in front of everyone, and acted like a prodigal son. Hundreds of thousands of primal crystals were enough for him to play with for a period of time. Those were high-grade primal crystals, not middle-grade or low-grade primal crystals. However, while everyone felt that Qinhao was a little retarded, they also began to speculate about Qinhao's identity. A disciple who could carry hundreds of thousands or even millions of high-grade primal crystal stones with him, what kind of shocking background did he have? At least, in the heavenly mist city, there wasn't a single family's disciple who could be so wealthy. Hiss! As Qinhao spoke, he had already jumped into the ring. At the same time, he handed the 2 storage rings to the referee. 300,000. Do you dare? To Qinhao's surprise, Mo Yuxian said again at this time. As he spoke, he took out 3 storage rings as well. This was the most she could take out. Originally, when she said 200,000, she was worried that it would exceed Qinhao's bottom line. However, now that the 200,000 was confirmed, and Qinhao had already stepped into the ring, why not try another 300,000? In her eyes, Qinhao's realm and aura didn't pose any threat at all. He was simply a typical prodigal son, or a guy who loved gambling as much as his life. Qinhao frowned again, but after a slight pause, he said arrogantly, let's bet, I'm not afraid. The 2 beautiful sisters looked at each other and frowned. Obviously, they didn't expect Qinhao to play to this extent. However, when they thought of their grandfather saying that Qinhao's wealth was more than all the savings of the Leng family, they understood. Although they had a lot of money, 300,000 was indeed like a game in his eyes. Moreover, Qinhao might not necessarily lose, just an idiot. Shiman Wenjian, whose face was livid, was obviously going to fly into a rage. However, at this moment, his expression relaxed, and he thought to himself. Mo Yuxian was his cultivation partner, and Qin Hao's words just now were humiliating his cultivation partner in front of him and the whole world. How could Shimin Wenjian tolerate it? However, he endured it. After all, Qin Hao hadn't stepped down from the edge of the ring, and whether to fight or not had not been decided yet. If he showed up, what if Qin Hao was scared off? Now, it was proven that he was right to endure it. Yuxian, I still have 500,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Since this guy is so arrogant, do you think we should be afraid? Take it. Teach this idiot who doesn't know his limits a good lesson with me. Chi. 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 5 storage rings immediately flew to Mo Yuxian. Mo Yuxian was delighted. When Shimin Wenjian came, she was more or less nervous. After all, she knew what Shimin Wenjian was thinking. This time, she suppressed the beautiful sisters of the Leng family again, and she was afraid that she would be questioned by Shimin Wenjian. However, at this moment, Shimin Wenjian made a move at this time, and obviously, he didn't blame her. Who the fuck are you calling an idiot? To everyone's surprise, Qin Hao, who was on the ring, actually turned his head and pointed at Shimin Wenjian from afar. His appearance was as if someone had stepped on his tail, and he vividly displayed the arrogance of a good-for-nothing disciple. He said, 500,000 primordial crystal stones, and you dare to show off in front of me? If you have the guts, bring out a few million or 10 million. I have plenty. Swish. As Qin Hao spoke, he suddenly took out a few dozen storage rings that were exactly the same, and they were obviously filled with 100,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. It directly blinded everyone's eyes. The beautiful sisters of the Leng family were speechless. Although they didn't have much contact with Qin Hao's previous performance was not related to his current appearance. It was very obvious that Qin Hao's current actions were clearly intentional. He raised the stakes step by step. This also made the beautiful sisters gradually believe that Qin Hao really had the confidence to defeat Mo Yuxian. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this. Judge, here are 500,000. Qin Hao sent out a beam of energy and directly sent 5 storage rings to the judge. His eyes were full of provocation and disdain as he looked at Shimin Wenjian, who was below the ring, and said, Come on. How many do you have? I'll take them all. Shimin Wenjian's face became extremely ugly. Even he didn't expect Qin Hao's wealth to be so shocking. He also didn't expect that Qin Hao would dare to take out so many primordial crystal stones to bet. This made Shimin Wenjian a little suspicious. Did Qin Hao have a powerful trump card? Otherwise, no matter how idiotic he was, he wouldn't give away so many primordial crystal stones, right? After pondering for a while, Shimin Wenjian said coldly, I don't carry so many primordial crystal stones with me. Kid, if you want to bet big, how about we fight? I'll take you on however many primordial crystal stones you have. As long as you dare, I can go and prepare now. Is that so? Then go and prepare. If you lose 10 primordial crystal stones, don't show off in front of me. Get lost as far as you can. Hag, we can start now. Qin Hao said arrogantly. As he spoke, the aura around him suddenly soared at a terrifying speed. Humph. Clang. Facing the rascally Qin Hao, Mo Yuxian didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. She snorted coldly and directly drew her sword out of the sheath. A terrifying aura instantly spread out. Her eyes were filled with monstrous anger, and she couldn't wait to smash Qin Hao into pieces. How should I address you, young master? At this moment, the judge asked. Qin Hao said. Since they were going to fight, they naturally had to announce their names. Good, Mo Yuxian, Qin Hao. The bet for this battle is 1,600,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Both of you, please take your places. The judge said in an excited voice. A battle with such high stakes was unprecedented among the younger generation. The judge was naturally a little excited. Clang. Boom! The moment the judge announced the start of the battle, Qin Hao drew his sword out of the sheath and took a step forward. On the other hand, Mo Yuxian charged at Qin Hao violently. When they were 1,000 feet apart, she stabbed out with her sword. The brilliant sword light contained mysterious runes that vividly displayed the power of her late-stage primordial soul realm. The terrifying energy and pressure caused the heavens and earth to tremble. Wherever the sword light passed, the space seemed to be torn apart. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not they were skilled. Mo Yuxian's sword strike had shocked countless young disciples. Even some middle-aged and elderly experts had a look of admiration on their faces. As the second most powerful expert of the younger generation, Mo Yuxian indeed had talent and combat power that ordinary people couldn't reach. However, the aura and power that Qin Hao displayed at this moment was even more shocking. Although he was only at the early stage primordial soul realm, the sword light that he emitted was not much weaker than Mo Yuxian's. Boom! The moment the sword light collided, there was a huge explosion. The raging energy directly caused the arena to be riddled with holes. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Qin Hao retreated 100 feet in the face of the terrifying energy shock. On the other hand, Mo Yuxian's body only paused for a moment before she charged at Qin Hao violently again. At the same time, she continuously swung her sword. In the first exchange, Qin Hao was obviously at a disadvantage. Even so, the way the crowd looked at Qin Hao changed. Before the battle, most people thought that the furious Mo Yuxian would probably severely injure Qin Hao in one move. There was not much suspense in this battle. But now, although Qin Hao was at a disadvantage, he only retreated 100 feet and did not suffer any injuries. What did this mean? It meant that Qin Hao actually had the ability to challenge a top genius like Mo Yuxian. As expected, he has the right to be arrogant. Unfortunately, this kid has overestimated his own strength. Third brother, quickly go back to grandfather and report the situation. Tell him that I want 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. No matter how much this kid hides, I'm confident that I can win. Shiman Wenjian stared coldly at the two people who had already started fighting in the arena as he spoke to a young man beside him. Sister, do you think he's faking it? He hasn't used the destruction sword principle. I think so. Lele, his goal seems to be to challenge Shiman Wenjian. But it's said that Shiman Wenjian cultivated the illusion sword principle to the peak of the mastery stage a year ago. Grandfather said that he might have already condensed his sword principle will into a sword soul. Then what should we do now? I really don't know how he has so many primordial crystal stones. It turns out that he's borrowing from us. If he really wants to fight with Shiman Wenjian. Sister, why don't we inform grandfather? If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Qidian. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 382. Qi. Qi. Boom. Boom. In an instant, the two of them were engaged in close combat. After stepping into the primordial spirit realm, the energy around one's body would return to its original state. One could condense all the true core strength in one's body and sword. Every move they made seemed ordinary, but the power they unleashed was terrifying. What surprised Qin Hao was that Mo Yuxian's sword skill was extremely unpredictable, appearing and disappearing like a ghost, as if there was no path to follow, with a myriad of changes, each strike aimed at Qin Hao's vital points. Fortunately, Qin Hao had already turned the solitary sword technique into his instinct. Under the suppression of his opponent's strength, he was still swift and fierce. He used offense as defense and used the profundity of his strength to the extreme. Amazing! Mo Yuxian has cultivated the Misty Sword technique to the highest level. She deserves to be the second expert in Heavenly Mist City. Qin Hao is even more amazing. He is obviously suppressed, but he is not flustered at all. What is more amazing is that he can seize every opportunity and use offense as defense. If it were not for his inferior strength, Mo Yuxian would definitely not be his opponent. That's not necessarily true. Mo Yuxian's strongest point is not her swordsmanship, but her palm technique. The power of the Mo family's extermination palm is not to be underestimated. I just don't know what level she has reached. Humph. If this is all you have, you will be defeated. Extermination palm. For a full 5 minutes, Mo Yuxian thought that she could defeat Qin Hao with her sword skills, but she didn't expect that Qin Hao's fighting strength was so strong. She obviously had the absolute advantage in strength, but she always felt like she was being attacked by Qin Hao's attacks. She couldn't display the power of her Misty Sword's secret art at all. She was in a rage and finally couldn't bear it anymore. After exchanging a blow, she abruptly retreated and shouted in a delicate voice. She waved her hand and slapped out. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a palm shadow that exuded an aura of extermination rose into the air. It was at least 1,000 feet in radius and violently enveloped Qin Hao. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred miles surged crazily, causing the sound of air being torn apart. The momentum was extremely shocking. What a powerful force! Great accomplishment of the extermination palm. How is this possible? It's because of the gloves. High-grade spirit treasure. It must be a high-grade spirit treasure. When they saw this, aside from Shiman Wenjian, a hint of shock shone in the eyes of all the onlookers. Extermination palm was the Mahist clan's strongest ultimate technique, and only blessed realm martial artists could practice it to mastery realm. But now, Mo Yuxian, who was only at the late primordial spirit realm, was displaying the aura of the extermination palm, which clearly far exceeded her cultivation level. Fuck, if I had known earlier, I would have reminded her. If I had tied or lost this match, it would have been over. At the very least, this brat would have been seriously injured. He would definitely not bet with me again. At this moment, Shiman Wenjian cursed inwardly. He had only made a verbal promise to Qin Hao. If Qin Hao went back on his word, there was nothing he could do. This was a loss of tens of millions of high-grade primordial crystal stones. Even for him, it was a huge fortune. Therefore, at this moment, he was a little regretful that he had not reminded Mo Yuxian. He even hoped that Qin Hao could use some kind of powerful trump card to block Mo Yuxian's move. Palm technique? Palm technique then. Feeling Mo Yuxian's powerful palm, Qin Hao's fighting spirit rose crazily, and his powerful soul power was instantly raised to the extreme. He crazily activated the true essence in his body, and like a river bursting through a dam, it rushed out along a special route in his meridians. There was no energy overflowing, but the aura of his whole body caused a violent explosion in the surrounding air. What was more shocking was that the color of Qin Hao's skin actually changed at this moment. It shone with a faint golden light, giving off a metallic texture. What kind of body refining technique is this? So powerful, could it be the legendary immortal god king's immortal golden body technique? Impossible, the immortal golden body technique has been lost for a long time. This kid is so young, how could he have mastered it? Even a manifestation realm expert with the immortal bloodline would not be able to do it, let alone him. Moreover, if the immortal golden body technique is mastered, his whole body should be golden, like a golden man. He is only emitting a trace of golden light, it must be some kind of powerful body refining technique. When Qin Hao's skin shone with a golden light, the countless elites who had rushed over to watch the fight, including the Blessed Realm elites who had already raised their auras to the max and were prepared to save Qin Hao at any moment, had shocked expressions appear on their faces. The immortal God King, in the whole boundless land's cultivation world, was a well-known existence, and there were many legends about him. 10,000 years ago, he was a top expert whose name shook the immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Demon Dao. Although he was not the strongest in battle, no one dared to offend him because of his abnormal physical body, which was close to the immortal realm. His self-created technique, the immortal golden body technique, was famous in the whole boundless land, and almost all the disciples in the cultivation world could see it in the historical materials of their sections. According to legend, the immortal golden body technique was the only peerless technique that could be cultivated to the point of immortal bloodline. Once activated, the physical body would turn golden, and one's strength would skyrocket, and his defense would be extremely strong. Chi! Ow 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 ow! Without giving the crowd too much time to be surprised, Chen Hao violently blasted out with his palms, and in an instant, it was as if he had turned into 18 giant dragons, brazenly meeting Mo Yuxian's terrifying extermination palm. Boom! Terrifying energy swept out like a hurricane. The instant the palms came into contact with each other, it exploded with a rumble. The protective barrier of the stage could not block the sound waves. They were like bolts of lightning that exploded in the ears of the crowd. Some of the young disciples who had gathered from the low-level arenas to watch the battle were directly shaken to the point of bleeding from their 7 orifices, and they screamed repeatedly. At this moment, even the primordial spirit realm experts activated their energy to protect themselves. Countless people widened their eyes in shock, and the 2 beautiful sisters sucked in a breath of cold air. Just a moment ago, when they saw Mo Yuxian's terrifying strength, they were worried for Chen Hao, and their hearts were in their throats. But now, all of that was replaced by shock. Obviously, even they did not expect that Chen Hao's strongest points were his body-refining technique and palm technique. This kid is actually so strong. Shiman Wenjian also widened his eyes in horror. Mo Yuxian relied on an upper-grade spiritual treasure to display the power of the extermination palm, and he knew very well how strong it was. Even if he wanted to take it, he would have to use his ultimate move. Originally, he had thought that Chen Hao would definitely lose, and he was very depressed, afraid that Chen Hao would shrink back and not fight with him. But now, the power that Chen Hao displayed, although the final result had not been seen, made him understand that Mo Yuxian was probably unable to defeat Chen Hao. That's good. Then let me handle it. In the arena, Chen Hao and Mo Yuxian rolled back at the same time. While they were still in the void, they spat out blood. However, Chen Hao only rolled for a few hundred meters, and then he stabilized himself. With a light shout, he suddenly rushed toward Mo Yuxian, who was still rolling. Stop! Chen Hao, she has lost. At this moment, the referee suddenly released an extremely powerful energy, which seemed to have condensed into a soft and elastic energy ball, so that Chen Hao was not shaken, and could not move forward. Lost? Mo Yuxian's aura can no longer be used, and your attack now will be fatal. You win. The referee said straightforwardly. I didn't lose, I didn't lose. At this moment, Mo Yuxian suddenly shouted in a stern voice. She was full of unwillingness and anger. Then let's continue, I have no objection. Chen Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said. In Chen Hao's view, there was no clear winner. Although he had raised his physical strength to the extreme and activated his strongest palm technique, the dragon-subduing palm. But in the end, it was a tie. He did not expect that the referee would give him the victory. The referee shook his head and also released an energy to stop Mo Yuxian, and said, Mo Yuxian, you should know the rules of the challenge area. As the referee, I can't let any genius die in the arena. Just now, your aura was stagnant, and Chen Hao could kill you. This is fair. Go down. Hiss. Mo Yuxian was directly sent out of the arena by the referee. This is the bet you deserve. Put it away. Chen Hao wins, the challenge continues. After the referee took the 1% commission, he put all the bets in front of Chen Hao. The protective barrier of the arena was temporarily removed. Hiss. Right at this moment, Shiman Wenjian ascended the combat ring swiftly like a bolt of lightning. However, he stopped at the edge as well, and he stared at Chen Hao with a cold expression as he said, Amazing, amazing. I didn't expect your combat strength to be so strong. Boy, you won't regret what you said just now, right? I can wait for you to recover to your peak state. What I said just now. What did I say? 10 million high-grade primal crystal stones, why, are you going to regret it? Well, do you have 10 million? Chen Hao's handsome face flashed with a trace of evil charm, and he asked in reply. At most an hour, I promise I have it. Sorry, I don't have time to wait. I won't wait after the deadline. Referee, that's all for today. I win this battle, and there are still 100 high-grade primal crystal stones as a reward, right? Cough cough. Yes. Are you sure you don't want to continue? The referee thought there was a bigger commission waiting for him. Unexpectedly, Chen Hao did not want to continue the battle, and even asked for the 100 high-grade primal crystal stones as a reward. Was this still the playboy who squandered money like it was dirt? I'm sure. Okay then. Here you go. Boy, are you kidding me? Shiman Wenjian's face became extremely ugly, and he stared at Chen Hao and said eerily. You just realized. Do you think I'm an idiot? Who doesn't know that you've condensed a sword's soul, and it's hard to guarantee that you won't be like that hag and have a high-grade spiritual treasure. I'm just at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, and although I've cultivated some body-refining techniques, and it's not a problem for me to deal with that hag, as for you. I don't want to be a boy who gives money away. If there's a chance in the future, let's spar again. Chen Hao smiled and flew to the side of the sisters. The sisters were a little dumbfounded and could not react for a moment. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 383. Under everyone's gazes, the beautiful sisters of the Leng family surrounded Chen Hao and walked out of the free exchange battle area at a leisurely pace that seemed slow but was actually fast. Chen Hao, who was extraordinarily handsome, looked calm and composed. He stood out from the crowd and did not look like a good-for-nothing disciple at all. It was only at this moment that everyone faintly noticed that Chen Hao's frivolous actions before the battle that seemed like a farce were done intentionally, and it just so happened that he'd successfully deceived everyone. Although he was only at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, the combat power he displayed was admirable. In particular, Mo Yuxian had displayed strength that was beyond her level, but Chen Hao still won. Moreover, he seemed to have won easily. Although he had chosen to avoid Shiman Wenjian in the end, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. As Chen Hao had said, most people had heard that Shiman Wenjian had already condensed a sword's soul and might even have a high-grade spiritual treasure to help him. Moreover, he was at the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul realm. Chen Hao's choice to avoid him was a very wise decision. My good granddaughter, is this enough? Leng Ninglu turned to look at Chen Hao's handsome side profile and asked, It's enough. God grandfather Chen, you provoked Shiman Wenjian on purpose? Unknowingly, there was a trace of admiration in the sister's eyes. You can't say that I did it on purpose. Chen Hao said calmly, Grandfather, I thought that I could fight Shiman Wenjian, but something went wrong. Something went wrong? Something went wrong with cultivation. It's a pity that we lost 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. But that's about it. They didn't go too far, so we can't be too ruthless. Take these primordial crystal stones we won as compensation from Mo Yuxian. Ah. Thank you, God Grandfather. God Grandfather, you're the best. The sisters accepted the primordial crystal stones without any hesitation. Who asked this God Grandfather to be so rich? Anyway, these primordial crystal stones were just a drop in the ocean to him. But to them, it was not a small fortune. Brother. Right at this moment, the space suddenly fluctuated, and the old man Lin Kongye strangely appeared in front of the three of them. When he saw the beautiful sisters and Chen Hao sticking together with a happy and sweet look on their faces, the old man's face was immediately filled with black lines as he exclaimed. Brother? Why are you here? Grandfather. The two beautiful sisters released Chen Hao at the same time, and respectfully saluted Lin Kongye. Lin Kongye glared at the two girls, and then he looked at Chen Hao and said, The two girls said that you want to challenge Shiman Wenjian, and you want to bet 10 million? That's it? Did you lose? No, God Grandfather didn't fight with Shiman Wenjian. We won against Mo Yuxian and earned 800,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. God Grandpa gave it to us. Leng Ning said happily. Ah. It's okay, it's okay. Let's go back first. Leng Kongye sent out 3 bursts of energy that directly enveloped the 3 of them. The space fluctuated, and after a moment, the 4 of them returned to the Leng clan. When Leng Kongye learned the details from the beautiful sisters, his face was filled with a complicated and speechless expression. Especially when he learned that the beautiful sisters used Qin Hao as a shield to attack Shiman Wenjian, it made him even more depressed. What the fuck is this? The reputation of the beautiful sisters, at least in the entire Heavenly Mist City, was probably finished. What should he do? Should he announce that Qin Hao was his sworn brother? This was undoubtedly the best way. However, if he really did that, firstly, the efforts of the beautiful sisters would be wasted, and secondly, when he saw the beautiful sisters together with Qin Hao, he already faintly felt a dangerous aura. This aura made him intuitively feel as if he had made a wrong move from the beginning, and he felt as if he had lifted a rock and smashed it on his own feet. The old man could only turn a blind eye to it, and wait for the future situation before making a final judgment. Phew! 3 days later, in the cultivation room, Qin Hao let out a long sigh of relief and woke up from the comprehension of the secular sword principle. At this moment, his whole body was covered with sparkling and translucent sweat, and his clothes had long been soaked. He looked like a drowned rat that had been drenched by a rainstorm, and his face was a little pale. This mortal sword Tao is really extremely difficult. If I want to truly comprehend it, it's utterly not something that can be accomplished in a short period of time. The general outline of the Grand Tao is useless towards comprehending it. Qin Hao thought in his heart. No one knew that Qin Hao had provoked Shiman Wenjian because he really wanted to fight with him. However, when he faced Mo Yuxian, he was depressed to find that the secular sword principle had shrunk to one side like a tortoise when he didn't have the intention to kill her. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't activate the aura of the destruction sword principle. It was fleeting and unpredictable, and he couldn't exert any power at all. That was his only confidence in challenging Shiman Wenjian. If he couldn't use it, how could he fight? That was asking for trouble, if it weren't for the fact that his physical body had broken through its limits again and again in the terrifying beast tide, and had been refined by the primary outline of the Great Path to become so powerful that it surprised even him. He wouldn't have been able to deal with Mo Yuxian. Although the judge had declared him the winner, he knew that he only had the advantage of his body and soul. If he really went all out, he might not be able to defeat Mo Yuxian. At most, Mo Yuxian would die, and he would be seriously injured. Spiritual weapons can't meet my needs anymore. I have to get some spiritual treasures. I can't rely too much on equipment and weapons, but I have to be prepared. It's better to be safe than sorry. Unfortunately, I still lack the fire essence jade marrow to fuse with the old god. He had found the celestial stone, the dark iron soul, and several kinds of materials for the next step of fusion, but there was still no trace of the fire essence jade marrow. According to the mysterious existence, the fire essence jade marrow could only appear in the core of a volcano that was millions of years old. It was a kind of spiritual object of heaven and earth with a certain level of intelligence. Once this material was fused, the ability to control fire would reach the extreme, and it was definitely one of the most important factors in refining weapons and pills. No matter, I'll think of a way to find it after entering the central continent. The 2 little girls attracted the heavenly punishment today. As their grandfather, I have to go and see. The Leng sisters attracted the heavenly punishment. It was definitely a big matter for the Leng family. Tens of thousands of disciples of the Leng family all gathered at the back mountain of the Leng family, a place where disciples could attract the heavenly punishment. On the huge mountain peak, the Leng sisters were already sitting cross-legged, and the essence, energy, and spirit of their bodies were slowly revolving. Obviously, they had reached their peak state in all aspects. Brother, there shouldn't be a problem, right? When Qin Hao arrived, he was directly called to Leng Kongye's side. No problem, in these 3 days, Huan Huan and Lei Lei have refined several kinds of elixirs that you gave them. Although the heavenly punishment is powerful, it shouldn't be a problem for them to withstand it. Are they going to attract the heavenly punishment at the same time, or one by one? At the same time. Their mind, bloodline, and realm are completely the same, and they have telepathy. When they attract the heavenly punishment at the same time, they can combine the heavenly punishment into one, increasing its power by more than 3 times. This is a good thing for them. Brother, I have something to discuss with you. What is it? Huan and Lele are 2 years older than you, and, because of Shiman Wenjian's matter, the whole Heavenly Mist City treats you as their Dao companion. Since you've already done this, I feel that you should keep it a secret for the time being. When you're in front of others, don't make things difficult for the 2 girls, and just let them call you Brother Hao. Also, don't call me old brother in front of others. Hee, this is no problem. I was wondering why you directly sealed off our conversation, so it was because you were worried about this. Cough cough. But, brother, you must always remember that you're their grandfather. Lin Kongye reminded him a little awkwardly. This was also something that couldn't be helped. Before the problem of the Leng family's descendants was solved, the sisters were the only support of the Leng family. In the future, they had to inherit the Leng family's business and incense. A person like Qin Hao obviously wouldn't be bound to a small family like the Leng family, and he didn't meet his requirements at all. However, the reason why Lin Kongye relaxed a little of his control over the 2 girls and Qin Hao was because he, who had obtained 7 mutated immortal fruits, didn't have to worry about this matter for the time being. Moreover, he had a new plan. His sons had failed to live up to his expectations, and he was forced into a corner, so he could only erupt once again. Of course, he had to do it secretly, otherwise, he would be laughed at by the world. An hour later, the sisters finally attracted the heavenly punishment at the same time under the anticipation of the Leng family's members. 2 terrifying tribulation clouds condensed above their heads at the same time. At first, they were separated by 3,000 feet, but as time passed, the 2 terrifying tribulation clouds actually started to fuse due to the special connection between the sisters. It was the first time Qin Hao saw the birth of a fused tribulation cloud. Although its might was far from being as terrifying as his tribulation cloud, when he released his powerful soul perception to probe, Qin Hao's black eyes shone with a trace of extraordinary splendor. He gradually closed his eyes and immersed himself in the process of comprehending the fusion of tribulation clouds. Crack! Boom! The heavenly punishment finally descended. It was also at this moment that the sisters suddenly stood in the air, clenched their fists, and raised their heads to welcome the terrifying heavenly punishment. At the same time, Qin Hao also suddenly opened his eyes, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes as he looked at the sisters. Amazing! Amazing! This kind of mysterious heavenly punishment fusion and superimposition has increased the power of their heavenly punishment by more than 3 times. It's a pity that the time is too short, and the fusion is too fast. Qin Hao thought to himself with a little excitement and regret. This kind of mysterious fusion method had completely exceeded Qin Hao's understanding. Qin Hao was very clear about the power of fusion techniques, but he could only fuse techniques that complemented each other's attributes, or fuse energies that did not contradict each other. However, the heavenly punishment of the sisters was completely the same heavenly punishment, and they would definitely repel each other. However, they had actually fused together. What did this mean? This meant that as long as Qin Hao could comprehend this mysterious fusion method, he would be able to fuse all of his ultimate techniques, battle skills, and various attribute mysteries, and energy into one. How much would his battle prowess increase by? It was unimaginable. In the new month, can you give your guaranteed monthly vote to Dark Mountain? Thank you. Chapter 384. Qin Hao didn't stay for long. After confirming that the sisters had successfully resisted the heavenly punishment, he returned to his room. The beautiful sisters needed to go into seclusion for a period of time to stabilize their realm, and Qin Hao had a new understanding. Moreover, he also needed to comprehend the secular sword principle as soon as possible. Even if he couldn't exert its power, he had to find a way to not drop the ball. Otherwise, this strongest sword principle would really be of little value. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. During this time, Shiman Wenjian, led by Patriarch Shiman, paid a visit to the Leng clan. His main purpose was to investigate the situation of the Leng sisters. However, he was tactfully rejected by Leng Kongye. Although Leng Kongye didn't say it explicitly, he knew that the sisters already had someone in their hearts. As for who it was, Shiman Wenjian naturally guessed that it was Chen Hao. However, ever since Chen Hao defeated Mo Yuxian, he never appeared in Heavenly Mist City again. However, the rumors about Chen Hao were investigated by some people. Although there were many people with the same name, they still locked onto the leading figure of the Eastern continent's younger generation, Chen Hao. After 2 months, the Leng sisters finally stabilized their realm and aura and came out of seclusion at the same time. That night, under Leng Kongye's personal escort, 3 figures stepped into the giant teleportation array from Heavenly Mist City to the central continent. At this point, Chen Hao had finally arrived at the legendary Eastern continent, the strongest region of the boundless world, after 1 year and 4 months after leaving the Eastern continent. The central continent is the core area of the boundless world. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is extremely dense, and dangerous places are everywhere. The immortal Tao, devil Tao, and demon Tao coexist. There are countless powerful sects and clans. Among the 3 Tao, the top ones are the Limitless Immortal Palace, Limitless Devil Palace, and Limitless Demon Palace. Apart from the 3 Tao, there are also a few powerful races that are enough to deter the central continent. No one can truly rule the central continent. A terrifying beast tide can erupt anytime and anywhere. It is the most dangerous region in the entire boundless world. The central continent is the real battlefield between the boundless world, which is also the boundless planet, and the foreign demon beasts, alien races, and other invaders. Countless cultivators had risen here, and countless cultivators had fallen here as well. Here, every cultivator has the responsibility of protecting the boundless continent. The one who dominates the entire middle continent is not the Limitless Immortal Palace, nor the Limitless Demon Palace. Instead, it is an alliance of forces that spread across the entire middle continent, regardless of righteous or evil, regardless of race, regardless of the 3 paths. These forces are all forces jointly established by some top experts. Everything is based on strength, maintaining the fairest competition. Regardless of age or cultivation, the best way for a cultivator who has stepped into the central continent to obtain the greatest amount of treasures and wealth is to join one of these organizations. There are no restrictions on them, and they don't have to bear the obligations of a sect or clan. Chen Hao organized all the information about the central continent in his mind. After more than a year, he was finally going to set foot on the powerful central continent. He couldn't help but feel a trace of excitement. It was a dragon and an insect. Here, it was the true beginning. The glory of the past had become a thing of the past. When he stepped onto this land, he was just a rookie. Everything had to start from scratch. Bound by the binding talisman, Chen Hao stood in the middle with the beautiful sisters tightly hugging his arm. The beautiful sisters, who were stepping into the central continent for the first time, were also excited. They were filled with anticipation for their future journey, but they were also a little nervous and lost. They had grown up in Heavenly Mist City. Apart from occasionally going out to see the world under the guidance of their grandfather, they didn't have a chance to experience the world by themselves. Therefore, they were naturally excited and nervous at this moment. The teleportation array from any city to the central continent wouldn't teleport to a specific city. Instead, it would teleport to a random region. As for where it would be teleported to, it was impossible to determine. In fact, they had to stay in the teleportation channel for at least half a day. This was equivalent to teleporting to a higher plane. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible to obtain the qualifications to survive in the central continent. This kind of teleportation was equivalent to an indirect test. Only after fulfilling the requirement for half a day would the teleportation be successful. Otherwise, they would be sent back. Chi, In the transparent and mysterious teleportation channel, endless darkness entered their eyes. Occasionally, there would be a flash of light, but with their cultivation, they couldn't sense it at all. After more than 10 minutes, the teleportation continued. This was the first time the three of them experienced a teleportation channel that had a concept of time. Moreover, their minds were completely clear. As time passed, when an hour had passed, a violent energy and pressure suddenly assaulted them, causing the three of them to wake up from their excited state of mind. It's time to test us. Huan, Lele, I won't be helping the two of you in this passageway. Chen Hao's pitch-black eyes sparkled as he glanced at the two girls and said, "Yes. God grandfather, we will definitely pass." The two beautiful sisters said at the same time. Their beautiful faces flickered with a wisp of determination. That's good. As time passed, the pressure produced by the energy became greater and greater. The pressure also became stronger and stronger. The impact on the physical body and soul also became greater and greater. 4 hours later, the two beautiful sisters had already closed their eyes. Their delicate bodies trembled slightly as they hugged Chen Hao's arm tightly. The energy around their bodies was also activated. Quan Fu's body and mind were immersed in resisting the dual pressure of the physical body and soul. According to Lin Kongye, ordinary cultivators could only withstand the teleportation channel's test after reaching the peak of the mid-stage primordial soul realm. However, the two beautiful sisters' talent, combat strength, and temperament were much stronger than ordinary cultivators. Although they were only at the early stage primordial soul realm, they would definitely pass as long as there were no accidents. There was no need to worry. Unlike the two beautiful sisters, Chen Hao opened his eyes and looked at the endless darkness and the occasional flickering light. His handsome face was calm and did not even need to activate the slightest bit of energy. This little bit of physical and mental pressure had no effect on him at all. As the pressure became greater and greater, the sisters' energy also became stronger and stronger. They could not help but hug Chen Hao's arm harder and harder. Although Chen Hao tried his best to restrain his mind and not feel the charm and gentleness coming from his arm, the sisters' strength could not help but hit Chen Hao's cranial nerves again and again. When he accidentally lowered his head to look at the two girls, he could see two white twin peaks that had been squeezed out of shape through their necklines. Compared to men, women are really too inconvenient. If I'm not careful, I'll be taken advantage of. Calm down, calm down. This is my god-granddaughter. Chen Hao muttered in his heart. He could not help but sigh at his charm. When the two beautiful sisters were in front of their grandfather, they would always keep a distance from him and would not dare to be too intimate. However, when their grandfather was not around, they would always use him as a shield and directly stick to him, hugging his arm like little birds. It was as if they were very attached to this feeling. They did it so naturally that Chen Hao could not refuse. They were his granddaughters, weren't they? It seemed normal for them to seek a sense of security from him. However, whether it was Chen Hao himself or the two beautiful sisters, they all felt that this grandfather-granddaughter relationship was more or less a little absurd. Hiss. Half a day later, violent fluctuations suddenly came from the teleportation channel, and bright rays of light bloomed. The two beautiful sisters who were immersed in suffering suddenly felt their bodies and minds lighten, and all the pressure disappeared. At the same time, their essence, qi, and spirit seemed to be bathed in warm sunlight and completely recovered in a moment. We passed. The two girls opened their eyes at the same time and said with a trace of excitement and surprise. However, when they saw that the two of them were hugging each other, and Chen Hao was standing beside them with a whip tied around their slender waists, looking like he was leading a pet, the two of them were stunned at the same time and said, "God Grandpa, what are you doing? Why are you tying us up? The energy storm is too strong, and it can be said to be turbulent. God Grandpa can't bear it, so I can only use this method. And, it's fine now. We're about to reach the central continent." Chen Hao said with a serious expression on his handsome face. As he spoke, he untied the whip. "Oh. God Grandpa, can we discuss something with you?" The two girls didn't seem to understand the meaning behind Chen Hao's words. After obtaining their freedom, they stuck to Chen Hao's side at the same time. Leng Ninglu looked up at Chen Hao and said with a hint of coquettishness. What is it? When we reach the central continent, we want to follow God Grandpa, but with our age and appearance. If we keep calling you God Grandpa, even if we don't feel awkward, God Grandpa will feel awkward too, right? Elder sister and I have already discussed before coming here. How about, we call you Young Master, okay? The two of us will pretend to be God Grandpa's subordinates. Young Master, you can't. Besides, you can't be my subordinates. Otherwise, how can I explain it to elder brother? In front of others, you can just call me elder brother or boss. However, the two of you can't be so intimate with God Grandpa in the future. God Grandpa is young, and it will affect your reputation. Besides, if the four of you mistresses misunderstand, God Grandpa won't be able to explain it. That's fine. Why don't you introduce us to them first? Grandpa said that they are all at Limitless Immortal Palace. How about, we go to Limitless Immortal Palace to find them first? Limitless Immortal Palace isn't that easy to find. Furthermore, it's not a place where we can go whenever we want to. Just do as I say, we're almost there. Chi chi chi. Just as Chen Hao finished speaking, the space tunnel suddenly disappeared. The three of them instantly turned into three streams of light and appeared in the void. A desolate and ancient aura blew against their faces. The sky was filled with thick dark clouds. It was gloomy and oppressive, but it was also filled with dense heaven and earth spiritual energy. I recommend a novel Seeking Death. It's a Xuanhuan type of book that is worth reading. If you're interested, please support it. If you like this novel, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 385. After a brief moment of surprise, the three of them determined the direction and turned into three streams of light, disappearing on the spot. Along the way, Chen Hao sensed the aura of many cultivators, all of whom were young experts in the primordial soul realm. Obviously, these cultivators had just been teleported to this area, just like the three of them. The cultivators who came in through the teleportation array in the cities outside the central mainland were usually teleported to a safe area within a 10,000-mile radius of the city. There was basically no danger in this area. There were also rarely any demonic beasts, unless there was a beast tide. However, the teleportation array would not be activated during the beast tide. Otherwise, how could the disciples who were teleported here survive? An hour later, a huge city that stretched as far as the eye could see appeared in front of the three of them. The city walls alone were 10,000 feet high. Even from 1,000 miles away, they could sense a vigorous, vast, and majestic aura. Under the hazy sky, it emitted rays of light. In front of a city gate that was 1,000 feet long and 3,000 feet high, there were 100 primordial soul realm experts standing on both sides. They were dressed in martial attire and had a stern aura as they guarded the city gate. Two elders in the creation realm stood guard. When Chen Hao and the other two arrived at the entrance of the city gate, many young cultivators lined up in a 100-man queue, waiting to be checked by the two elders in the creation realm before entering the city in an orderly manner. Some cultivators who flashed their identity tokens were allowed to enter without being checked. However, the young cultivators who were obviously entering the eastern mainland for the first time had to undergo a detailed check by the two elders in the creation realm before they could enter. The appearance of Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters naturally attracted the attention of many cultivators. Firstly, the aura of the two women was in the early stage primordial soul realm. Chen Hao had barely reached the peak of the early stage primordial soul realm. Being able to pass through the teleportation array at such a realm meant that there was something extraordinary about them. Secondly, the aura of the three of them was very young. Thirdly, the two beautiful sisters had the same peerlessly beautiful appearance and Chen Hao's peerlessly handsome appearance. Both of them were existences that attracted everyone's attention. The central mainland is really a gathering place for geniuses. We've just arrived and we've already seen such top geniuses, most of the young cultivators thought to themselves. Chen Hao and the other two were no exception. While others were sizing them up, they were sizing up others as well. Chen Hao could sense that at least 1/3 of the cultivators in the group had extremely powerful auras. Any one of them would be a peerless genius capable of stirring up a storm in the eastern continent. Old Wang, look at that little fellow. When Chen Hao and the other two stood in the queue and waited for the inspection, two people at the entrance brought out several strange enchanted treasures to perform various tests on the cultivators. One of them, an old man in Blessed Realm, sent a voice transmission to the other. Not bad, not bad. It had been a long time since he had seen such an outstanding young man. This young fellow's life aura indicates that he's only about 20 years old. It's already quite impressive for him to reach the peak of the early stage essence soul realm. That's right. The key is that his qi and blood are extremely dense. It's obvious that he has cultivated an extremely powerful body refining technique. His physical body must be very strong. It was just that he did not know how powerful Zhang Xian was. Nevertheless, just based on these 2 points, it was already hard to come by. Those twin girls are not bad either. After nearly half an hour, it was finally Chen Hao's turn. Seniors, my name is Chen Hao. I'm from the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao District. I'm 20 years old. My realm is at the peak of the early stage essence soul realm. This is the identification of the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao 10 sets, said Chen Hao as he cupped his fists when he saw the inspection process in front of him. Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao District. Everyone, including the two old men, was deeply surprised when they heard Chen Hao's words. The Eastern Continent was at the bottom of the cultivation world. If Chen Hao was ordinary, no one would be surprised. However, although Chen Hao's realm was slightly lower, he was definitely not ordinary. Everyone thought that Chen Hao was from a powerful city outside the protective barrier. They did not expect him to be from the Eastern Continent. That's right, said Chen Hao respectfully when he saw everyone's gaze. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and he was not ashamed of the Eastern Continent at all. Not bad, not bad. I didn't expect the Eastern Continent to produce a talent like you. Let's begin the inspection. As the old man activated the special detection Dharma treasure, Chen Hao could clearly feel his soul, body, and bloodline fluctuating. It was as if several streams of energy were swimming in his body, inspecting him clearly. Before coming here, Chen Hao already knew that this inspection was not to check their strength. It was to check if they were the transmogrification of a high-level alien race. After a while, the three of them completed the inspection and stepped into the majestic city together. Whoosh! Before the three of them could size up the city, a group of people swarmed over. Hello, three of you. I'm a member of the Heaven and Earth Guardian Group. The Heaven and Earth Guardian Group is one of the top guardian groups in the Boundless Continent. Welcome, this is our information. I'm the Yi family's envoy. I'm from the Beyond Guardian Group. In an instant, Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters became the target of countless promoters. Some of the cultivators who had just entered or those who came later were left out. It couldn't be helped. Although Chen Hao and the other two's realms were not high, these smart people could see that they had potential. If they could rope them in, they would naturally be rewarded handsomely. Under the bombardment of the crowd, Chen Hao and the other two received jade scrolls that stored information about the various guardian groups and factions. Only then did they walk out of the crowd. Brother Hao, sister, our cultivation is the lowest, but we are the most popular. Hee hee. Which one should we join? We're not joining any of them, Chen Hao said. We just need to go to an alliance's testing center and obtain the guardian status. We'll register another guardian group. We don't lack money. Our main goal is to cultivate. We don't need to work for any organization. Oh. We'll do it ourselves. It depends on the situation. If there's a good mission, we can join another guardian group to have fun. There's no restriction anyway. The Guardian status certification was something that all cultivators in the Middle Mainland had to go through. The cultivators who first stepped into the Middle Mainland could only become a level 1 Guardian, regardless of their cultivation. Only by completing enough mission points and meeting certain conditions could they raise their Guardian rank. Guardians could join forces and register as a Guardian group. A Guardian group also had a strict ranking assessment. In fact, a Guardian group was equivalent to a mercenary group, and a Guardian group was a mercenary group. It was just a change of name. Although Qinhao didn't receive any specific information before coming here, he had a pretty good guess about it. The three of them read the information in the jade scrolls as they walked. In the huge city, cultivators were all in a hurry. There were not many people on the streets. Moreover, most of the palaces belonged to a certain Guardian group, sect, or family. Taverns of various sizes would appear at intervals. Many cultivators gathered there. Is this the alliance? After 2 hours, the three of them crossed a distance of nearly 10,000 miles and finally arrived in front of a huge and magnificent palace in the center of the city. This palace was 3,000 feet tall and nearly 100 miles in diameter. It was a circular palace that spanned across the center of the city. One could not see its full appearance at a glance. It was only at this time that cultivators gathered from all around the city became denser. Ha, fourth brother, it's all thanks to you this time that we completed the last level 3 mission. Our Guardian group can finally be promoted to a level 3 Guardian group. Yes, fourth brother, you're worthy of being the leader of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City. We've been here for so many years and still haven't been able to leave, fourth brother. Why, are you attracted to him? A middle-aged man lowered his voice and said, we can't provoke these peerless geniuses. No, that young man looks very familiar. He looks very similar to someone I know. If he's still alive, he might be comparable to this young man. You mean Qinhao from the Eastern continent? Yes. Let's go. I didn't expect there to be someone who looks so similar. Ha, the young man called fourth brother said. This young man was none other than Lin Hao, the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce in Emerald Smoke City. The few cultivators who were obviously much older with him were all cultivators from Emerald Smoke City. After Qinhao led the 2 women into the palace, they arrived at the Guardian certification area under the guidance of the beautiful female attendant. When they arrived at an empty window, Qinhao cupped his fists and said to the old man at the window, hello, senior. We'd like to take the Guardian certification assessment. Oh. The old man lazily seemed to be immersed in meditation. When he heard Qinhao's words, he opened his eyes and looked over with a hint of surprise. Young man, not bad. It's been a long time since I've seen such a young primordial spirit realm cultivator. However, you're only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, so you'd better go home and cultivate. It's not that easy to be certified as a guardian. If you fail, you can only take the assessment half a year later to avoid wasting another half a year. Senior, we've been teleported here. Please help us with the certification, Qinhao said with a smile. Obviously, the old man's kind reminder had mistaken them for native youths from Songyuan City. Ah. You've been teleported here. Not bad, not bad. Young man, you have a bright future ahead of you. Each person has to pay 1,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Enter your information into the jade scroll. Although your abilities should have met the requirements, you still have to pass the assessment. The old man was even more surprised when he heard Qinhao's words. Thank you, senior, Qinhao and the other 2 said. After taking out 3,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones and handing them to the old man, the 3 of them entered their information into the jade scroll. After the assessment is completed, bring your results to me to receive the Guardian certification token. Go in. The old man waved his hand and released a wave of energy, opening the door and allowing Qinhao and the other 2 to enter the assessment hall. The hall was only 1,000 feet in radius. Inside, there were more than 100 cultivators divided into 10 rows, waiting to be tested. After Chen Hao and the other two entered, they all looked at them. Most of the people revealed a look of amazement. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it on Qidian. Com. Chapter 386. Chen Hao brought the two girls to the team with the least number of people and stood at the back. The young cultivator standing in front of Chen Hao turned back to look at Chen Hao and transmitted his voice, "Brother, did you teleport here from another area?" His gaze swept across the two girls and he nodded slightly without any evil intentions. This cultivator's aura was obviously at the beginning stage of the essence soul realm. He had a head of golden curly hair and a tall and muscular body. He was half a head taller than Chen Hao. His face was rough and his most unique feature was his thick and long eyebrows. They were actually connected into a line and were also golden in color. Yes. Chen Hao nodded slightly and transmitted his voice. I'm the first king, a cultivator from the Flaming Lion tribe in Songyuan City. Nice to meet you. Chen Hao. These two are my junior sisters, Chen Hao said, and did not reject them. This young cultivator's aura was so strong that Chen Hao faintly felt that it would be a little tricky. However, there was no hostility. Brother Chen's aura is very strong. I wonder if there are any factions that you like to join. If not, we can join forces to register a guardian team. I wonder if Brother Chen is interested. We will compete based on strength and the strongest will be the leader. I have already invited a few cultivators from the Immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Fiend Dao. They have all just passed the guardian test. With the three of you, we can form a team of 10 people and register a guardian team. The first king said. Oh. Brother First King, why are you taking the test so late? Chen Hao asked in surprise. This test is not difficult for people like us. I have been waiting outside for a month. It is not easy to choose suitable teammates. The other 6 people are the same age as us. They are all at the beginning stage or peak stage of the essence soul realm. If we train together, it will be good for everyone's improvement. Brother Chen, are you interested? Sure. After we are done with the test, we will look at the other teammates before I decide. How about that? Ha, good. I guarantee you will be satisfied. I still have a good eye. The first king grinned and cupped his fists at Chen Hao before turning his head confidently. Subsequently, Chen Hao told the two women about his conversation with the first king. Chen Hao already had plans to establish his own guardian group. Firstly, he knew very well that he wasn't the kind of person who was willing to be subordinate to others. Although joining other powerful guardian groups could allow his guardian level to rapidly increase, it would lack self-tempering. Especially towards the end, it would be more and more unworthy of the name. Secondly, Chen Hao wanted teammates who had truly gone through hardships with him. Only such a team would be meaningful. This demonic youth, the first king, intuitively felt that he would be a good teammate. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Moments later, all 10 doors opened at the same time. Most of the hundreds of cultivators walked out of the door with a hint of excitement. There were also a few who were dejected. It was obvious that they had failed the test. They cursed and left the hall with their tails between their legs. Next batch. After all the cultivators came out, a dignified voice came from the door. Chen Hao and the others quickly passed through the door and entered a spacious hall. To Chen Hao's slight surprise, he was clearly within the palace, yet a chasm that was like a natural chasm had appeared before him. It was an entire 3 kilometers wide, and when he looked down, it was pitch black and filled with a terrifying and dangerous aura. In front of them was a tunnel that was 100 meters long. It was raised at a 30-degree angle like a cannon barrel. This chasm is 10,800 feet wide. It is also the first test. There is a 100-fold gravity field condensed on the chasm and it will seal your ability to use your vital chi again. Unless you are a cultivator in the creation realm, you will definitely not be able to fly. You can only rely on your speed to rush through the tunnel in one go. Once you step out of the tunnel, all your strength will be restricted. If you are too slow, you will not be able to jump to the other side and will be eliminated. So, you must increase your speed to the peak in the tunnel. An old man in charge of the test said in a low voice, "From now on, the first in the first row to the first in the second row will take turns. Begin." "It's no big deal," the cultivator in the first row said confidently. He took a step forward and rushed into the cannon barrel that was 100 meters long. With a loud bang, he shot out like a cannonball. If he did not have the 100-fold gravity field, he would definitely be able to rush up hundreds of thousands of feet and fly dozens of miles away. But once he rushed out of the cannon barrel, the 100-fold gravity field caused his speed to decrease drastically. He twisted at an angle that was completely beyond everyone's imagination. Fortunately, he was fast enough. When he reached the edge of the tunnel, his body had already landed on the platform on the other side, but his hands were just in time to grab the railing at the edge. It caused quite a number of cultivators to break out in cold sweat. It was especially so for the cultivators who did not have an advantage in terms of speed. They became even more nervous. In the subsequent tests, a number of cultivators performed amazingly. With a light lift, they flew dozens of meters above the platform and landed steadily on the platform. This caused quite a number of cultivators to applaud. But there were also 6 cultivators who failed. They screamed as they fell into the deep valley and were eliminated. "Brother Chen, I'll wait for you on the other side." Finally, when it was time to discuss the young first king of the Fey race, the first king confidently said to Chen Hao, "Boom!" With a loud rumble, his massive body suddenly turned into a stream of light. Although he was only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, the speed he displayed was much faster than most of the cultivators at the mid-stage of the primordial spirit realm. He was almost 100 meters above the platform as he landed steadily on the platform. Everyone, including the old man in charge of the test, nodded approvingly. He said, "Not bad. This young demon is obviously from the Flaming Lion clan. He's not good at speed, but he's only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. To be able to achieve such speed is really rare. He's a good seedling." Next. After that, the 9 cultivators performed average. Finally, it was Chen Hao's turn. "Relax. If you can withstand the test of the traditional passageway, there's basically no problem with this test. It's just a test of attack power, reaction speed, and attack speed." When Chen Hao saw the sisters' nervous expressions, he reminded them telepathically, "Throw away all distracting thoughts and adjust yourself to your best condition. With your abilities, you'll definitely pass." After Chen Hao finished speaking, he rushed into the cannon barrel in a flash. The young demon king, who was already standing on the other side, had a hint of anticipation and excitement. Of course, the hot-bloodedness of youth made him naturally view this test as a contest between him and Chen Hao. Chen Hao naturally understood this, but he still did not use his full strength. His powerful soul and the precise calculation ability that came from his other self had already calculated the precise gravitational field value from the speed and downward acceleration of the cultivators in front of him. Then, according to the elevation of the 100-meter cannon barrel, Chen Hao knew very well how much he could increase his speed to be able to suppress the young demon king, and it would not be too shocking. This was just a test. No matter how good one's results were, they would still be qualified as a Class 1 guardian. There was no need to expose too much in front of everyone. Boom! Shik! At the moment Chen Hao rushed out, the 100 or so cultivators watching knew that Chen Hao's results would definitely be very high. But with the first king in front of them, they were not too surprised. However, the old man who presided over the test revealed a hint of surprise. Others might not have sensed it, but the old man was a Blessed Realm elite. The change in Chen Hao's speed in the short 100 meters in the cannon barrel was clearly under his control. Unlike the others, Chen Hao's speed did not increase in a straight line. Instead, it went through a few small, undetectable twists and turns. What did this mean? It meant that Chen Hao was not charging forward at full speed, but was adjusting his speed at the instant he rushed out. Even Chen Hao did not expect that the old man would notice his subtle movements. Amazing. He's almost 150 feet now. 105 meters. He's more than 5 meters taller than me. As expected, he's not simple. However, speed isn't my forte. When the first king saw Chen Hao cross the height of the platform, he was slightly surprised. But he was not discouraged. Instead, it stirred up his competitive spirit. Soon, it was Leng Ningle's turn. However, when the old man asked Leng Ningle to go up, the little girl hesitated for a moment before she said to the old man, "Senior, can we sisters go together?" "Sure. As long as you're not afraid of affecting each other, it doesn't matter. You two should have telepathy, right? You two are pretty good twins. You can start now." "Thank you, Senior," Leng Ningle said respectfully. Leng Ninglu respectfully said. The two sisters looked at each other and suddenly turned into two streaks of light that shot into the cannon. If they were ordinary people, their speed would definitely be affected if they went together, but the sisters had telepathy, and they were like one person. Not only would their speed not be affected, but their speed would also be increased to a higher level when they worked together. Leng Ningle made such a request because the little girl was not very confident. However, the old man agreed to it because they were not the first people to make such a request. In the world of cultivation, twins who had telepathy were basically inseparable. They were like one person. Most of the time, even in a duel, they would attack at the same time, and usually, no one would object to them winning with numbers. Chi. When the sisters walked out of the cannon barrel hand in hand, everyone, including Chen Hao, widened their eyes in shock. So fast, they're that powerful. Chen Hao was a little speechless. After the sisters entered the primordial soul stage, Chen Hao was not sure how powerful they were when they worked together. However, at this moment, just the speed they displayed made Chen Hao certain that it was definitely comparable to his limit. 200 meters. Amazing, really amazing. This speed is almost twice as fast as ours. The first king said in shock, "Brother Chen, how should I address them?" "Leng Ninghuan, Leng Ningle," Chen Hao replied with a faint smile. He looked at the sisters with a hint of excitement on their faces as they landed beside him. "You two little girls, don't work together in the next test. Keep a low profile." Seeing that the two of them couldn't help but lean on him like little birds, Chen Hao's father transmitted his voice. "Oh. God grandfather, we're afraid we won't be able to pass." The sisters replied at the same time. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote. Chapter 387. The second test is the attack power test. You'll pass if you light up 100 purple crystals. You'll be eliminated if you don't. Everyone has 2 chances. Let's begin. Under the old man's lead, everyone entered the second level. The space was very small, only 1,000 feet in radius. A testing pagoda monument stood at the core. On the monument, 200 purple crystals were evenly distributed from the lowest to the highest. An ordinary mid-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivator can light up 100 crystals. A late-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivator can light up 150 crystals, and a half-step to Creation Realm cultivator can light up 200 crystals. Brother Chen, among our other 6 teammates, the least one has lit up 120 crystals. In terms of attack power, he's close to an ordinary mid-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivator. The highest one has lit up 143 crystals, close to a late-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivator. The first king transmitted his voice as the 100-odd disciples began the test. There was a confident smile on his rough and imposing face. "That's very good. Did you meet the other 6 here, or did you know them from the beginning?" "I only knew 2 of them at first. They're cultivators from Songyuan City like me. One of them is from the Immortal Dao, called Beili Lian City, and the other is from the Fiend Dao, called Jing Tiangang." Brother First King, forgive me for being blunt, but with your talent and cultivation, you must be disciples of the big families or sects in Songyuan City, right? Why did you form a separate guardian group? The First King smiled and said, the three of us are indeed disciples of the top families in Songyuan City. We're also the direct descendants of our families, and we're the most talented disciples. Therefore, we're free. Our mission is to reach the peak of the martial Tao. Our families won't restrict us in any way, and that's what we want. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback when he heard the First King's words, but he immediately nodded in relief. Indeed, a true expert's achievements would be limited if they were bound to the trifling matters of their families. The First King then introduced the other four to Chen Hao. The other four were two pairs of Tao companions. One of them was from the more powerful East Sea Archipelago, while the other was from the northern continent. Everyone felt that the attack power test was much easier than the speed test. When it was the First King's turn, not a single one was eliminated. Most of them were concentrated between 100 and 110 stones. Only a few disciples had a score above 130 stones, and the highest was 138 stones. As a member of the Flaming Lion clan, the First King had a natural advantage in terms of strength. With a single punch, he lit up 158 of them. The First King was very satisfied with this result. He was only at the early stage Essence Soul Realm, but his offensive strength had already exceeded the late stage Essence Soul Realm. With such results, he was confident that it would not be difficult for him to beat Chen Hao. Of course, if he knew that Chen Hao had easily defeated a genius expert of the late primordial spirit realm, he probably would not think so. Moreover, when Chen Hao defeated Mo Yuxian, his cultivation level had not yet reached the peak of the early stage primordial spirit realm. Not bad, young man. You must be the First King of the Shi family, right? Exactly. Senior, you flatter me, First King cupped his fists and said when he heard the praise from the elder presiding over the test. Although he spoke modestly, the pride of a young man could not be concealed at all. However, when Chen Hao casually struck with his palm, the First King's eyes widened. 160 stones. A moment later, the beautiful sisters' results were announced one after another. They were exactly the same, 113 stones. The third test is a test of reaction speed and movement technique. Follow me. The elder led Chen Hao and the others to the third level. A narrow passageway that was thousands of feet long and only 15 feet wide appeared before everyone's eyes. There was no mysterious aura in the passage. The four walls looked like an ordinary passage made of huge stones. Even with Chen Hao's powerful soul perception, he could not detect any abnormalities. In this passage, you will be attacked 1,000 times without any warning or pattern. You will only be able to sense a trace of energy fluctuation when the attack is launched. The attack is not very powerful, and it will not injure you. However, every time you are hit by an attack, a point will be deducted. If you are above 600 points, you will pass. If you are below 600 points, you will be eliminated. You do not need to try to sense it. Even Blessed Realm elites will not be able to sense any aura from the traps in the passage. What you need to do is to react as quickly as possible when the attack appears. Remember, you can only dodge, not block. If you block it, you will hit. Time limit. You must pass through the passage within 1 minute. Otherwise, you will fail. Begin. The old man said in a low voice. When the first cultivator heard the old man's words, he sucked in a deep breath and stepped into the passage. Hiss! As the cultivator moved forward quickly, crimson-red rays of light that looked like lasers appeared out of thin air in a bizarre manner. They shot out without any warning, and the angles were incredibly tricky. They were also incredibly fast. In the beginning, there were dozens of them, and the cultivator avoided them all, but as he went deeper, clear banging sounds came from the cultivator's body. Every time a sound rang out, it meant that the cultivator was hit. The further he went, the higher the frequency of the sound. In less than a minute, when the cultivator reached the end of the passage, he was already covered in cold sweat, and his face was pale. It was not because he had used up a lot of energy, but because he was extremely nervous, and he had used up too much of his spirit. He panted heavily and stared at the old man who had arrived at his end at some unknown point of time. "You hit 403 times. Try harder next time," the old man said in a regretful tone while shaking his head. "Senior, can you give me another chance? I was too nervous, and I didn't use my full strength. I can do it. Go down. It's not that easy to become a guardian. You are indeed nervous, but nervousness is also a problem of your temperament. There's no need to say anything else." The old man waved his hand and released a wave of energy, sending the first cultivator who took the test to the group of people who were eliminated. "All of you, listen up. The number of people who are eliminated in this test is the highest in every batch. There are often cultivators who find all kinds of excuses, saying that they are nervous, that they are tall, or that they are at a disadvantage. These are all excuses. This test is very fair. As long as your body doesn't fill up the entire passage, it's fair. Although the time and distance of each attack is irregular, it is the same, and the reaction time is the same. Alright, let's continue." The old man stood at the other end of the passage and said in a dignified manner. After that, among the nearly 100 people, most of them were between 600 and 700 points, and 7 people were eliminated again. Moreover, most of the people who were eliminated were older people. Judging from their depressed expressions, it seemed that this was not the first time they had taken this test. Moreover, it was obvious that they had all failed in this segment. "I can't lose again this time." When it was finally First King's turn, this tall guy thought to himself. Although this was not his strong point, he had more or less underestimated his opponent in the first 2 segments. Without any pressure, although he had tried his best, it was definitely not his limit. His goal was to be the regiment commander. Although the test could not reflect his true combat power, how embarrassing would it be if he was suppressed by Qin Hao in every aspect? First King took a deep breath and cut off all distracting thoughts. He adjusted his state of mind to a state of emptiness, and his essence, qi, and spirit surged to an unprecedented level. Qi. His tall and mighty body immediately turned into a stream of light and charged into the long and narrow passage. Hiss, as the crimson laser-like attacks appeared, the First King's huge body nimbly flashed. Relying on his precise senses, he did not waste the slightest bit of time and energy. Every red light narrowly brushed past him. He moved forward 6,000 feet and did not cause any explosions. So powerful, too powerful. His reaction speed and body movement have reached such a level. I'm afraid that even a peak late-stage primordial soul realm can't do it. Is he going to win completely? Impossible. No one in the primordial soul realm can win completely. Only those half-step to manifestation realm experts who came from other regions and took the test later can win completely. It's hard to say. Although reaction speed will increase as one's cultivation level increases, it is more of an innate advantage. Pa. At 8,000 feet, a crisp pa sounded in everyone's ears, destroying any possibility of a complete victory. Roar. First King let out a beast-like roar. His golden curly hair immediately stood on end as he charged forward again. Powerful, the legendary Golden Lion King. This fellow is a rare genius who gets stronger under pressure. At this moment, even Qin Hao was a little surprised by First King's performance. Of course, it was just a little surprise. Pa. After 2 more crisp explosions, the First King rushed out of the tunnel and appeared in front of the old man who had a look of surprise on his face. 997. He had only been hit 3 times. This was definitely beyond everyone's imagination. It seems that this fellow won't even give me a chance to keep a low profile. Qin Hao's lips curled into a bitter smile. He thought to himself, but fortunately, its body movement and reaction speed, although body movement and reaction speed were also a great measure of combat power, they were not very important compared to absolute power. This was what most people thought. If it was a test of attack power, Chen Hao would rather lose to First King to keep a low profile. How good was it to pretend to be weak? If he really let everyone know that he was strong, how would he have the chance to make a fortune? As expected of the Shi family's #1 genius. Good job. The elder could not help but exclaim, this is the best result in the past 10 years among all the testers in Songyuan City who are below the middle stage of the primordial soul realm. After a few people, it was finally Chen Hao's turn. Chen Hao's performance in the previous 2 tests had been astonishing. At this moment, everyone present, including the elder, was undoubtedly looking forward to Chen Hao's test. Chen Hao took a deep breath. His handsome face was still as calm as ever, and no one could tell how deep he was. He did not seem nervous at all. The others did not know about the secret competition between Chen Hao and First King, but First King was very clear about it. This time, it was all because of the explosive power of his little universe. He originally had the confidence to win, but for some reason, when he saw Chen Hao's expression, he vaguely felt a little uneasy. Hiss. Chen Hao took a step forward and rushed into the long and narrow tunnel. Chapter 388. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception spread out. He knew that if he wanted to surpass the First King, he had to be extremely focused. However, the moment he stepped into the tunnel, he did not use the free and unfettered wave-treading steps. Although the free and unfettered wave-treading steps was ever-changing, the key was the word human. The essence of it was to confuse the opponent, to lead the opponent by the nose and make the opponent make the wrong judgment. If the opponent closed their eyes and gave up their senses, it would be like a blind cat catching a dead mouse, and it would be easier to hit the target by mistake. As for the mechanisms and restrictions, they were preset with hundreds of different and irregular procedures. They would not be confused by the free and unfettered wave-treading steps. Therefore, Chen Hao could only rely on his reaction speed to make the most appropriate dodging in the shortest time possible. Hiss hiss hiss, under the laser-like scarlet attacks, Chen Hao's speed was astonishing, and he was not any slower than the First King. It looked extremely thrilling, but he passed through it by a hair's breadth. 400 feet, no sound. 500 feet, 600 feet, no sound. 700 feet, still no sound. Seeing this, the First King was even more nervous than when he was taking the test. His huge fists were tightly clenched, and his eyes were wide open. His thick golden eyebrows were like 2 raised dog tails. Seeing that Chen Hao was about to hit him, his breathing became hurried. 800 feet. Under everyone's shocked gaze, there was still no sound. The First King's rough and towering face was sweating. What did this mean? It meant that the result before 800 feet had already surpassed him. Although the timing and attack point of each person was different, it was always easier at the beginning and harder at the end. The First King could only hope that Chen Hao would make a mistake in the next 200 feet. In the blink of an eye, Chen Hao had finally reached the final juncture. Hiss hiss hiss, dozens of turbulent flows suddenly attacked. At this moment, everyone knew that Chen Hao had reached the most crucial moment. However, no one believed that Chen Hao could completely avoid this wave of attacks. No one, including the old man in charge of the test, thought so. After all, the density of the last round of attacks and the time interval between them made it difficult for even an elite in the initial stage of Blessed Realm to avoid all of them. They could not afford to make even the slightest mistake. Not only did they have to accurately judge the sequence of the seemingly chaotic attacks, they also had to ensure that they did not make even the slightest mistake, or else they would definitely be hit. However, what shocked everyone was that Chen Hao's body twisted strangely at this moment, like a water snake, flashing a few times at a high frequency. Then, Chen Hao appeared in front of everyone. From beginning to end, not a single sound was emitted. A complete victory. Everyone, including the old man, was dumbfounded. After a few seconds of silence, waves of exclamations and applause broke out. "Brother Chen, I'm impressed." First King cupped his fists and said with a burning gaze. The old man could not help but exclaim, "Young man, I didn't expect you to perform so well. I dare not comment on your speed and attack power, but you've broken the record of Songyuan City in this test. In Songyuan City, no one below the middle stage of Primordial Soul Realm has been able to achieve a complete victory. You're the first. Speed and reaction are my strengths. I was just lucky." Chenhao wiped the sweat off his forehead and said with a smile. "This fellow is not simple. In our batch, his speed is second only to the two beauties from the demonic path who came with him. His attack power is the best, and his reaction speed and movement are even more terrifying. His aura is still very young. I really can't compare to him. He's definitely a true genius in the central mainland. I just don't know how strong he really is. His real combat power is definitely not weak. Anyway, it's not something we can compare to. Damn it, this is my third test, and I finally passed. There's no pressure in the last test." As the crowd discussed in low voices, the test continued. The beautiful sisters from the Leng family performed equally well this time. Their reaction speed and movement speed were very good. Moreover, what surprised the crowd even more was that their results were exactly the same. They were both hit a total of 184 times. Moreover, the time and location of the hits were almost the same. It was just that the angle of the attack was different and the location of the hit was different. The last test was the endurance test of the physical body and soul. It was also the most important test. However, to Chen Hao, the beautiful sisters, and the other disciples who came through the teleportation channel, it was a piece of cake. They passed the test easily. Not bad, not bad. When Chen Hao brought the two ladies to the old man who had signed up for the test, the old man looked at Chen Hao in surprise and said. Then, he handed the token that symbolized a Class 1 guardian to the three of them. This is the description of the token. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask other cultivators. Congratulations on becoming the guardians of the boundless land. The old man said as he handed 3 jade slips to the three of them. Thank you, Senior, Chen Hao and the two ladies said at the same time. As soon as the three of them stepped out of the test hall, a group of young people gathered around them. Just by looking at these people's expressions, the three of them knew that they were definitely newcomers who wanted to form a guardian team. That was indeed the case. Even though Chen Hao and the other two had coldly rejected them, the crowd still persevered and followed them, bragging about how awesome they were, how good they were, and how loyal they were. There were even quite a few people who had come purely for the sisters. There was no doubt that beauties of this level would add to any guardian team. They were definitely living signboards. Even if they did not come out to recruit people, they would still attract many young disciples to join. In this day and age, so what if they had a Dao companion? They could at least be eye candy, right? Occasionally, there were many cases of people trying to poach. Even if they failed, there was still the possibility of cheating, right? As the saying went, a wife was not as good as a concubine, and a concubine was not as good as a thief. Move aside. A high-pitched voice suddenly sounded, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz. The first king, who was a head taller than most people, exuded a beast-like aura. With a wave of his hand, the crowd separated and he walked toward Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters. The first king, brother first king, is he one of your people? It wasn't easy for us to take a fancy to him. This time, please be magnanimous and let him go. There are already several of them. Many of the young disciples who surrounded him obviously knew the first king. Let him go, my ass. This brother Chen might be my first king's boss. You think you're worthy of him joining your team? Ah. Brother first king, did I hear wrongly? Hearing the first king's words, many Songyuan city natives revealed surprised expressions. Who was the first king? He was the leader of the younger generation in Songyuan city. He was known as the three great monsters along with the Bailey family's Bailey Liancheng and Jing family's Jing Tiangang. Each of them had their own characteristics and strengths. No one was willing to submit to another, but they had a good personal relationship and appreciated each other. In terms of overall strength, the first king still had a slight advantage. He was only slightly inferior to Qian Wuyang, the number one person of the younger generation in Songyuan City's number one sect, Songshan sect. However, the first king actually said that the young man in front of him might be his boss. What kind of concept was this? Move aside. Brother Chen, Miss Leng, they're all in the cultivation hall. We'll go find them and meet them. If Brother Chen doesn't have any objections, we'll register as a guardian team. Okay. Chen Hao said. Chen Hao had already obtained some information from the jade slip that the old man had given him. The cultivation hall was a place specially built by the Alliance for Guardians to cultivate. It was divided into various levels according to the Guardian's level. Level 1 Guardians could only enter the Level 1 cultivation hall. Moreover, they had to spend mission points or pay a fee to enter. However, the information did not mention the specific situation. When the four of them arrived at the cultivation hall, they each showed their Level 1 Guardian token. No points. You just passed the test, right? These numbers are all from today. If you want to enter now, each person has to pay 10,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. The time limit is 1 day. For every additional day, you have to pay 10,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Here are 40,000. The first king took out a storage ring and handed it to the old man guarding the door. We'll stay for a day first. If you want to extend it, I'll come out and pay the fee. The old man was slightly stunned. Clearly, he was surprised by the first king's extravagance. However, after sizing up the four of them, he concluded that they were the top geniuses of some large family and did not say anything else. They had money and were willing to waste it. What did it have to do with you? Why is it so expensive? After the four of them walked through the door, Chen Hao could not help but ask. It's normal. If you're not a guardian, no matter how much primal crystal stones you have, you won't be allowed to enter. This is only a Level 1 cultivation hall. For every Level 1 cultivation hall, the amount of primal crystal stones used is double that of the previous Level 1. Under normal circumstances, you have to use mission points to enter. Completing a Level 1 mission will give you 1 point. 1 point will allow you to cultivate here for a day. As a native of Songyuan City, although the first king had never entered the cultivation hall, he was very familiar with these details. They've been doing missions during this period of time to earn some points and cultivate here. I lost a bet with Bailey Liancheng and Jing Tiangang. Otherwise, they would have been looking for newcomers. Fortunately, I met the three of you today. Otherwise, even if I passed the test, I wouldn't have the time to come here. I've wanted to come here for a long time. The facilities of the cultivation hall are something that even the top clans and sects are unable to condense. It's definitely the best place to cultivate. It's just that using primal crystal stones is a bit too expensive. The first king said. Bang, bang, bang. Ding, ding, ding. After the four of them passed through a milky white light door, they immediately heard the sound of an intense battle. A huge martial arts practice hall appeared in front of them. In the middle of a circular arena, there were two cultivators fighting. In the martial arts practice hall, there were a few thousand people sitting in front of it and watching. Let's wait here. I'll inform them. The first king said as he crushed 4 communication talismans. 2 of them were to inform Bailey Liancheng and Jing Tiangang. The other 2 talismans were for the male cultivators of the 2 Dao companions. This cultivation hall was incomparably huge. The martial arts practice hall was just a place for guardians to compete. It belonged to the nature of entertainment and gambling. It was just like the free exchange and challenge area in Heavenly Mist City. There were also all kinds of sealed cultivation areas. As for the other 6 people, it was impossible to find them. Author's note: I can't repay my debt for these 2 days. I can only maintain 2 updates. I'm really ashamed. Also, all the brothers and sisters who have subscribed to Proud Heaven now have a free evaluation vote for Proud Heaven. If you haven't voted yet, please help me. Remember to give me 10 points. Many thanks. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Chapter 389. Buzz. A moment later, the first king received a message from Bailey Liancheng. He looked at Chen Hao and said, Brother Chen, the 6 of them have just arrived at the gravity field cultivation area. They want us to meet there. Since we are already here, let's go there and cultivate while chatting. The gravity field cultivation area is an excellent place to train speed, strength, and temper the body. Alright. I also want to experience it. Let's go. Chen Hao said. After passing through the martial arts practice area, the 4 of them entered a passageway that was 100 feet wide. After walking for a short distance, a door would appear on both sides of the wall. Beside the door was the name of the cultivation area. Heavenly Fire Body Tempering Area, Mystic Ice Body Tempering Area, Puppet Combat Area, Reaction Training Area, Attack Power Training Area, Movement Technique Training Area, Pressure Tolerance Training Area, Extraterrestrial Monster Level Simulation Training Area, Attribute Energy Attack Area, Sword Intent Training Area, Saber Intent Training Area, Artifact Refining Area, Alchemy Area, Heaven's Punishment Area. Huff, looking at the names, even the first king, who already knew the situation inside, had a burning gaze. Not to mention Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters who knew nothing about the cultivation dojo. Just by looking at the names, the 4 of them had the urge to go in and give it a try. Along the way, they met many cultivators who came out from various cultivation rooms. They even met a few who knew the first king. When the 4 of them reached the deepest part of the passageway, they finally saw the door that was marked with the gravity field cultivation area. D. The first king took out his token and pressed it on the notch on the door. The door opened. The moment the first king entered, the door closed again. Anyone who cultivated could only enter through their own token and couldn't follow. Firstly, it was to count the number of cultivators who entered. Secondly, it was to determine the cultivator's location in the cultivation dojo. Interesting. The boundless world is obviously not a primitive society. Although it is completely different from the high-tech on Earth, it uses runic arrays and heaven and earth energy to evolve similar high-tech things. Many places are even more advanced than Earth. Chen Hao thought to himself when he saw the first king's name on the door. This token was actually an identification card. Swipe the card to open the door and transmit your information to the training hall's control center. Chen Hao could not help but have some thoughts. When he thought about the puppets he had encountered in the 7 Stars Palace and Sky City, Chen Hao felt a trace of desire. Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters also swiped their cards, and walked in one after another. What came into view was a large hall with a radius of 3,000 feet. The layout of the hall was like a tavern. There were many tables and comfortable chairs. On the left side was a bar counter with beautiful waitresses. Huge shelves were filled with all kinds of drinks. On the right was a door marked, Medicinal Bath. Beside the door was a service window. Obviously, this medicinal bath also had a separate fee. Chen Hao could not help but exclaim in admiration. The cultivation gym's facilities were truly perfect. To a certain extent, the gravitational field cultivation was specialized for the physical body. After overloading the cultivation, the damage to the physical body would definitely be huge. As for the medicinal bath, it was a bath filled with spirit herbs. There was no doubt that it was specialized to solve this problem. Chen Hao only glanced briefly the moment he entered before looking at the 4 men and 2 women who were waving at them, or rather, the first king. The 6 people's gazes were basically focused on Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters. Whether it was Chen Hao or the beautiful sisters, a trace of surprise flashed in the depths of the 6 people's eyes. However, no one showed it. The expressions on their faces, especially the four men, were sufficiently arrogant. Ha! You didn't expect this, right? We're lucky today to have gathered 10 people in one go. Brother Chen, Miss Leng, come, let me introduce you. The first king warmly pulled Chen Hao's arm and walked to the round table where the 6 people were gathered. At the same time, he let Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters sit at the seat of honor first. The first king's seemingly unconscious action was nothing in the hearts of the 2 pairs of Dao companions. They originally thought that the first king was a boorish man who did not care about the etiquette of being in the upper and lower seats. However, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang, who knew the first king very well, were slightly surprised and could not help but look at each other. This is Chen Hao, Brother Chen, from the Eastern Continent's cultivation world, Eastern Continent's cultivation world. The first king's words made the 4 young people who pretended to be arrogant and wanted to show off their strength to Chen Hao frown at the same time. Ha! A hero's background is not important. Although the Eastern Continent is barren, Brother Chen. To tell you the truth, Brother Chen's test results completely suppressed mine. Seeing everyone's expression, the first king's huge body sat down on the seat of 2 people and said, "It's just a test, it's nothing." Chen Hao said with a smile. At this moment, he was the same as the 4 youths and had a similar air of arrogance. Although his words were modest, the arrogance on his face was obvious. Moreover, it was the kind of arrogance that came from his bones. He gave people the feeling that he was born to be in a superior position. It was not something that could be faked. Oh. Lion, you were conservative during the test, right? Jing Tiangang, who was surrounded by demonic qi and had a somewhat evil charm of a demon youth, raised his sword-like eyebrows and said indifferently, "What are Brother Chen's results for these tests?" Conservative my ass. I was in the same batch as Brother Chen and the other 2. Although I did not display my full strength in the first 2 tests, I did not hold back either. In the 3rd round, I exceeded my standard. However, I still lost. The first king said with a wave of his hand. Obviously, he did not care about face at all with Jing Tiangang. Brother first king, let's get to know each other first. The test does not represent combat strength and comprehensive ability. So what if the results are good? When we were tested, we just casually passed the test. It's not accurate. Among the pair of Taoist companions, a scholarly youth with an elegant appearance said with a slight smile. His pair of eyes were bright and shining with the light of wisdom. However, this brother was wearing a different kind of coquettish red robe, which destroyed his elegance and looked a bit out of place. No hurry, no hurry. Since Lion has said so, you should at least tell me what Brother Chen's results are, right? I'm a bit curious, although I also casually tested. Bailey Lianqing said with a smile. With a round and chubby face, if he shaved his head and aged for 180 years, he would be a living Maitreya Buddha. After the first king swept his gaze over the crowd, he reported Chen Hao's results. Although the speed in the first round was not bad, it did not surprise them. However, the attack power in the second round surprised them. However, what really made them flabbergasted was that Chen Hao actually won in the 3rd test. After seeing everyone's expression, the first king was satisfied and then introduced the Leng sisters. When it came to the sisters, the first king praised them again. In particular, the 2 of them had a tacit understanding of each other and showed a terrifying speed. Everyone could not help but sigh at their inferiority, and the gap between them was huge. Then, the first king introduced the 6 people to Chen Hao and the other 2. Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang, Chen Hao already knew. The name of the young man in the red robe made Chen Hao's balls ache a little. Zhang Rongrong, his beautiful Taoist companion, was called Tan Hui. She looked gentle and virtuous, dignified and noble. Although she was not as charming as the sisters, she was also a rare beautiful woman. In the words of Earth, this kind of woman was the kind of woman who was suitable to be a wife. She was good at both the hall and the kitchen. She came from the immortal cultivation world of the East Sea Archipelago. Like Chen Hao, Zhang Rongrong was the leader of the younger generation in the East Sea archipelago. He was also the champion of this year's intersect competition. Tan Rong was second only to Zhang Rongrong. Of course, these were all said by the first king. Obviously, they already knew each other's background. What made Qin Hao surprised was that the other pair of peerless geniuses from the northern continent were itinerant cultivators. They were not immortals, demons, or devils. The auras on their bodies were vague and fleeting. There were no obvious three auras. The man was slightly short, while the woman was tall and strong. However, they acted like a little bird. Qin Hao's names were even more shocking. He was called Gao Dazhuang, and the woman was called by Xiaomei. When the first king said the names of the two people, Qin Hao had a strong mental fortitude and resisted the urge to burst out laughing. However, the beautiful sisters sitting on his left and right could not help but burst out laughing. Cough cough. I'm sorry. Brother Gao and sister Bai's names are too wonderful for words. Sorry. Leng Ninglu said a little awkwardly. Hee, it's okay. Anyone who hears my name for the first time would be unable to hold back their laughter. However, Brother Chen is able to hold it in. You really have strong willpower. Bai Xiaomei's voice was so sweet that it was sickening. Apart from Gao Dazhuang, all the other men felt their bodies go numb. Of course, the prerequisite was that they could not look at Bai Xiaomei's appearance. Cough cough. Now that the 10 of us are gathered, if no one has any objections, we will form a guardian group after we leave the cultivation pavilion. What do you think? I have no objections. The first king was the first to speak. I also have no objections. Bailey Lianqing smiled. I also have no objections. Jing Tiangang said. Soon after, the two pairs of Dao companions and Qin Hao's trio also expressed that they had no objections. It's good that no one has any objections. When I first came to find you, I said that whoever becomes the group leader will be determined by strength. In terms of strength, the most important thing is combat power. Secondly, it depends on this. The burly first king, who looked like a golden lion king, pointed at his own head and said, Our family's Zhuang is extremely intelligent. Although Zhuang and I are not sisters, we are husband and wife. 3 years ago, our hearts were connected. If the two of us work together, you will definitely not be a match. Therefore, I feel that Zhuang is the most suitable group leader. What do you think? The first king pointing at his own head and talking about wisdom had already stunned everyone. Bai Xiaomei's recommendation of Gao Dazhuang made everyone's balls hurt. On the other hand, Gao Dazhuang had a leisurely look as if what Bai Xiaomei said was the absolute truth. Chapter 390. The virtuous wife and mother smiled without saying anything, but Zhang Rongrong curled his lips and said, I think I'm more suitable. Self-recommendation is invalid. I think Bailey Lianqing is more suitable. He hides a knife in his smile. He's cunning and scheming. Although he's a bit weak and dirty, he's more suitable to be the leader. Jing Tiangang said. You flatter me. I only have a few good points. I'm just average. I think you're more suitable too. Although you're a bit weaker than me. Bailey Lianqing said with a smile. The first king glared fiercely at the two of them, and a wisp of conflict appeared on his rough and towering face. After looking at Qin Hao and the others, he seemed to hesitate for a moment before saying, I think I'm more suitable. You? Pooey. I already said that self-recommendation is invalid. Although we have 10 people, we're in 6 groups. Only one person has the right to speak. Look at you. You're all brawn and no brains. Motherfucker, the two of you are obviously in cahoots to recommend each other. The first king said angrily, since self-recommendation is invalid, I recommend Brother Chen. Brother Chen, do as you deem fit. What do you mean? I think Gao Dazhuang is more suitable. Brother Gao, do as you deem fit. What else is there to see? Zhang Rongrong, although you're a bit weaker than our Gao Dazhuang, we recommend you. Fuck. Chen Hao did not expect this group of people to be so extreme. Even the first king had misjudged him. What do you mean by do as you deem fit? Ahem ahem. Chen Hao coughed twice with a thoughtful look on his face. After pondering for a moment, he said, let's cut the crap. It doesn't matter if you recommend me or I recommend you. No matter who becomes the leader, the others will not accept it. Since the first king said that we have to rely on strength, let's just find a place and have a duel. Duel? How can that be? We've already discussed this before. Even if there's a gap between us, it won't be that big. It won't be that easy to determine the winner. Even if someone dies. Gao Dezhuang said before by Xiaomei. That's nada, the beautiful sisters knew how strong Chen Hao's battle prowess was. Therefore, after hearing Gao Dezhuang's words, Leng Ninggle spoke up. However, before he could finish, he was stopped by Chen Hao, who said, since that's the case, let's change the method. I took a look at the cultivation gym when we first arrived. It covers all aspects and can definitely assess our strength. Although it might not be his true combat strength, the difference wasn't too big. Didn't you all not try your best during the test? This time, let's have a proper competition. Whether it's a mule or a horse, you'll know once you pull it out. Of course, this doesn't represent wisdom. Wisdom wasn't something that could be achieved just because someone said so. It needed time to verify it. Therefore, in this competition, we will only list the regiment commander as the temporary regiment commander when the Guardian Regiment is registered. After we have a deeper understanding of the Guardian Regiment, we will elect the regiment commander fairly. As long as it is for the sake of the Guardian Regiment, I don't think there will be such a situation where you choose me and I choose you, right? Alright. I agree with Chen Hao's method. The first king was the first to speak, his rough and lofty face shining with strong confidence. The Guardian test only tested the basic options. Although he accepted his loss wholeheartedly, it didn't mean that he felt that he was inferior to Chen Hao. The cultivation gym covered all aspects of the cultivation gym. Only then could one better assess one's true strength. This time, he was confident that he would win. I have no objections. Me neither. Let's start the competition directly. We will start from this gravity field. Whoever goes the deepest will win. The first place will have 6 points, and the points will decrease in order. You Dao companions will benefit a little and take the ones with good results. There are 3 of you, so the benefits will be greater. After looking at the 2 pairs of Dao companions, Jing Tiangang looked at Chen Hao and the sisters and said, no need. Huan Huan and Lei Lei are my younger sisters. Junior sisters. God sisters. Just take my results. After seeing the sisters' flushed faces, Chen Hao said directly. However, this fellow changed his words twice and said younger sisters. Obviously, they weren't blood-related. Junior sisters could be fooled by people who weren't familiar with them, but now that everyone knew about their situation, it wasn't suitable to be a junior sister. It was more suitable to be a god sister. There was no other way. He had to explain. Everyone obviously treated the sisters as his Dao companions. The first king was no exception. If he didn't explain, there would definitely be more awkwardness in the future. Ah. Hearing Chen Hao's words, apart from the first king, Bei Liu Yancheng and Jing Tiangang showed a surprised expression at the same time. Originally, when they thought that the sisters and Chen Hao were Dao companions, the 2 of them just glanced at each other and no longer looked at each other. This was the principle. They couldn't covet their friend's wife. In the future, they would be brothers and comrades. No matter how beautiful the sisters were, they couldn't be tempted. But now that Chen Hao specially explained, the 2 bachelors were suddenly overjoyed. Their eyes lit up as they looked at the sisters. They didn't hide their admiration at all, they had seen countless women, but they couldn't find one with talent, age, and outstanding appearance that could be their Dao companions. Since Chen Hao emphasized it in front of everyone, why should they be polite? Brother Chen, no, my dear brother, are you serious? Jing Tiangang, who originally said that Chen Hao was the most advantageous, had a 180-degree change in expression at this time. His face was full of flattery and flattery. He even called him his dear brother. Brother, what's the point of testing? Didn't the first king just recommend you? I also recommend you to be the leader. Jing Tiangang, you also recommend our brother? Bailey Lianqing hurriedly said when he saw that he was snatched first. You motherfucker. Jing Tiangang scolded Bailey Lianqing in his heart for being shameless. Didn't he see that the sisters had telepathy? What did it mean to have telepathy? Naturally, it was best to follow one person. But this shameless guy actually wanted to have a share of the soup. Not only did he want to have a share of the soup, he also wanted to checkmate him. But he could only hurriedly reply, of course, of course. Brother is the most suitable to be the leader. Chen Hao's face was tangled. Motherfucker, why were the people gathered together all the best this time? And to this extent? But, why did he have the urge to beat the two of them to death? Wasn't it a good thing to have two super geniuses chasing after his god-granddaughter? At that time, these two guys would have to call him grandpa, right? Why did he want to beat them up? Could it be, they touched my cheese? Chen Hao shuddered and quickly erased the thoughts in his mind. Gao Dazhuang and Zhang Rongrong, the husband and wife pair, were speechless and unhappy. The first king wished he could slap these two shameless fellows to death. They were just a pair of beautiful sisters, yet these two fellows were so shameless. What was good looking about them? So short, so small, so thin. The first king really couldn't understand. They were worlds apart from his dream girl. They couldn't even compare to Bai Xiaomei. Luckily, the first king only thought about it in his heart. If he really said it out loud, he was afraid that he would be despised by all the men in the world for having a problem with aesthetic standards. The sisters' faces were red. They reached out their small hands and pinched Chen Hao. Leng Ninglu saw that Chen Hao didn't react and finally couldn't help but say, "We are temporarily Brother Hao's god sisters. We have difficulties now and can't reveal our real relationship. Isn't that right, Brother Hao?" Leng Ninglu pouted and raised her head slightly. She moved closer to Chen Hao and asked coquettishly. Although Leng Ninghuan didn't say anything, she had the same expression as Leng Ninglu. Yes, yes, our true relationship can't be made public. Chen Hao hurriedly said as he looked at the two beautiful little faces and the two pink lips. At the same time, he couldn't help but admire Leng Ninghuan's quick-wittedness. What she said was the truth. They were temporarily god sisters. They couldn't reveal their real relationship. Their real relationship was their god-grandfather. But if that was the case, in the eyes of others, what was it if not Dao companions? Cough cough. What a waste of emotions, what a waste of emotions. Cough cough. Let the competition begin, let the competition begin. After removing the soundproof barrier, the 10 of them got up and walked directly into the gravitational field. After stepping through the light curtain, everyone's bodies trembled slightly. A huge pressure suddenly struck them, and their bodies instantly became 10 times heavier. Hi! Hi, Chi! Chi! At a glance, there were many cultivators walking under the 10 times gravitational field, displaying all kinds of skills. Some were practicing swords, some were practicing sabers, some were practicing movement techniques, palm techniques, and leg techniques. All of them were sweating profusely. It was obvious that they were challenging their limits. 10 times gravitational field was nothing to cultivators of the primordial soul realm. However, it only meant that they could withstand it. However, it was different here. Regardless of whether it was their body or their weapons, their weight had increased by 10 times. The same move would require 10 times the energy consumption. After cultivating here for a period of time, what would it be like to go out and use the same move again? Ah, everyone had a look of arrogance on their faces as they walked forward. However, at this moment, Bai Xiaomei screamed and covered her mountain-like chest with her hands. Although there was nothing beautiful about it, it was really huge. Everyone could see this with their eyes. What are you looking at? Gao Dazhuang opened his arms and stood in front of Bai Xiaomei. At the same time, he turned to look at Bai Xiaomei and whispered, "Dear, what are you screaming for? I told you to wear a chest wrap, I don't feel comfortable wearing it." Who knew that the gravitational field would have such a huge effect? "It's okay, I'll carry it," everyone was speechless. How high did one have to be to say such words? Wasn't it just a voice transmission? Chen Hao couldn't help but look at the beautiful sisters from the corner of his eyes. He knew that they weren't small either. Luckily, they didn't have any reaction. After all, not everyone could do something like a vacuum. After the commotion, the 10 of them continued to move forward at the same speed. None of them used any energy and were completely relying on their physical bodies to withstand the gravitational field. It was only 10 times the gravitational field. How could they be the first to show weakness? Although the gravitational field gradually increased as they went deeper, it was still within their tolerance range. The gravitational field of a level 1 cultivation stadium was at least 1,000 times the gravitational field. The deeper they went, the stronger the gravitational field. Everyone knew that with their cultivation and physical strength, they wouldn't be able to reach a depth of 1,000 times the gravitational field. It wasn't that they couldn't withstand 1,000 times the gravitational field. It was that their cells and organs couldn't withstand it. Chapter 391. The scene of the 10 of them walking in a row quickly attracted the attention of many cultivators. Especially the aura and age of the 10 of them. Every one of them was a top-notch prodigy. Moreover, the immortal Tao, the demon Tao, and the monster Tao were all present. There were beautiful women, handsome men, and weak men. In short, the appearance of the 10 of them in the gravitational field formed a strange and extremely coquettish visual feast. Everyone knew that the 10 of them were having a competition. Although such a scene did not appear often, it was not uncommon. However, it was the first time they had seen such a competition where prodigies gathered. It's not challenging at all. Let's gather our energy and go to the 500x gravitational field first. Then, we'll go deeper together. How about that? If we continue like this, we won't be able to finish in a day. Chen Hao and I don't have any points. We'll have to pay 10,000 superior grade primal crystal stones a day. First King could not help but say. The gravitational field was extremely huge. The gravity only doubled every 3,000 feet. Although their speed was not slow, it would take them at least 4 hours to reach the 500x gravitational field. It was a complete waste of time. Alright, let's start with the 500x gravitational field. Let's go. Chi 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 chi, everyone agreed. Immediately, they gathered their energy and went deeper into the gravitational field as fast as lightning. What a good place. After I earn some points, I'll cultivate here for a while. As they went deeper into the gravitational field, Chen Hao felt the gravitational field getting stronger and stronger. He was a little excited. He could not help but sigh at the power of the central continent. Not to mention the entire cultivation stadium, just the gravitational field alone was something that could only be found by chance outside of the central continent. With such a favorable condition, Chen Hao believed that his physical body would be able to reach a higher level. His various techniques would also be greatly improved, especially the solitary sword technique. The solitary sword technique had to be tempered in water, waterfalls, and other adverse conditions for the best effect. In this gravitational field, it was better than being in water or under waterfalls. Of course, with Chen Hao's current wealth, even if he used origin crystal stones to cultivate, it would not be a big deal, but wasn't frugality a kind of beauty? It was shameful to waste them. Moreover, Hao didn't have a lot of primal crystal stones on hand. He only had a few million or so left. When he left Heavenly Mist City, he gave most of the primal crystal stones to Len Kongye so that he could help deliver them to the star-picking sect. In the beginning, everyone increased their speed to the limit. However, as they went deeper and deeper, everyone, including Hao, slowed down. If it were in the outside world, every step he took would have been enough to crush hard rocks into powder. His bones, muscles, veins, and even every cell in his body emitted cracking sounds under the effect of the terrifying gravity, becoming incomparably heavy. Handsome men were no longer handsome, beautiful women were no longer beautiful, and their bodies and faces were a little out of shape. Looking at everyone's appearance, Hao couldn't help but think of the extremely ugly aliens. Why was it ugly? Firstly, it could be that their aesthetic standards were indeed different. Secondly, the biggest possibility was that they didn't look like this on their own planet. They adapted to the gravitational field of their own planet. When they were no longer on their own planet, the gravitational field would change, and their originally perky breasts might droop down to their stomachs. Of course, this was from a planet with a low gravitational field to a planet with a high gravitational field. If the gravitational field changed from a planet with a high gravitational field to a planet with a low gravitational field, then they would be stylish and stylish supermen. They would be so strong that they would be able to fly with just a casual jump, and this gravitational field cultivation room was undoubtedly a place to cultivate supermen, especially when it came to restraining one's own energy and relying solely on one's physical strength. If one trained here, it would definitely have an amazing effect on tempering one's physical body. An hour later, the 10 people finally arrived at the range of the 500-fold gravitational field. At this depth, there weren't many cultivators left, only a few dozen people scattered about. Moreover, each of them had a cultivation of the late-stage primordial soul realm or above. In the 500-fold gravitational field, the 10 people could clearly feel the terrifying force that their internal organs were enduring even if they used all the true yuan in their bodies. Even if they stood still, the consumption was huge. Let's officially begin. Let me remind everyone, don't push yourself like a toad on a table. If you can't take it, immediately activate the token. Otherwise, just wait to become a pile of mud. Jing Tiangang said with a solemn expression. Once the Guardian token was activated here, it would emit a light screen that isolated the gravitational field. This was also a method to protect the cultivators. Otherwise, they would have to hurry back before they ran out of energy. How would they be able to break through their limits then? That's right. Don't lose your life for the commander. It's not worth it. Now, let's start going deeper together. Whoever lasts until the end will be the winner. Let's go. The first king said in a deep voice. Immediately, the 10 people once again moved at a moderate speed, maintaining the same time and pace as they continued to go deeper. 500 times. Although it was not everyone's limit, it was not far from it. The consumption became very large, and because of the slow speed, every step became incomparably heavy. In just a short 10 minutes, everyone was sweating profusely. However, what made Hao and the others speechless was that Bai Xiaomei, who was tall and slightly more voluptuous, was obviously the weakest. She was drenched in sweat, and her clothes were soaked in an instant. Everyone could hear her heavy breathing. However, even though she was panting, she was still moaning from time to time. If one did not see her, they would really think that she was having an orgasm. Fortunately, when they reached the 600-fold gravitational field, Bai Xiaomei finally could not hold on any longer. Under Gao Dazhuang's gentle persuasion, especially when he said, "Don't change your shape in certain places," Bai Xiaomei finally gave in. She was the first to activate the guardian light of the guardian token, escaping from the abyss of suffering. 10 minutes later, the beautiful sisters of the Len clan, Tan Hui, and the other 2 ladies also activated their light of protection. It was not that they did not feel the pressure of not competing for the position of leader, but that they really could not take it anymore. In terms of physical strength, women were still lacking compared to men. Under the guardian light, the four women became spectators. Bai Xiaomei and Tan Hui were cheering for their men, but the sisters did not say a word. They were very calm. Even if they used their perky butts to think, they were sure that Qin Hao would get first place. Just by looking at the expressions of the 6 people, they could more or less guess. Time passed minute by minute, and in the blink of an eye, another 5 minutes had passed. However, these 5 minutes were extremely long for Jing Tiangang, Bailey Liancheng, and Zhang Rongrong. As the gravitational field continued to increase, the 3 of them clenched their teeth tightly. Creaking sounds could be heard from their bones from time to time. What flowed out from their bodies was no longer pure sweat, but blood. Every single one of them had turned blood red. Obviously, the gravitational field had reached the limit of what their bodies could withstand. Even with the protection of True Yuan, it did not have much effect. Their speed was also getting slower and slower. First King's situation was slightly better, but not by much. It was just that his footwork was still firm. On the other hand, Qin Hao and Gao Dezhuang were still relaxed. As for Qin Hao, the sisters were not surprised at all. It was within their expectations. However, Gao Dezhuang's aura was not very strong in the sisters' senses. But at this moment, other than sweating like Qin Hao, his expression was actually more relaxed than Qin Hao's. Under the guardian light, Bai Xiaomei was the opposite of the sisters. She was not surprised by Gao Dezhuang's performance, but by Qin Hao. She was very clear about the origin of Gao Dezhuang's name. It was absolutely true. Her name was Bai Xiaomei, and in front of Gao Dezhuang, it was also true. It was just that a special dual cultivation technique had caused Gao Dezhuang to become like this. As he grew older, not only did he not grow taller, but he also shrank back. However, it was also this shrinkage that allowed Gao Dezhuang's body to become terrifyingly strong. She did not dare to say anything else, but how could anyone compare to her Gao Dezhuang in this aspect? However, the extraordinarily handsome Qin Hao's performance at this moment was actually not inferior to her Gao Dezhuang's. This shocked her greatly. At this moment, the 6 people's speed slowed down under the influence of the weakling. It was almost no different from walking. They still maintained the same speed. The powerful Gao Dezhuang and Qin Hao did not walk faster just because it was easier for them. If that happened, they would be at a disadvantage. After all, it was a competition of depth and endurance. If they walked faster, they would have to endure more pressure in advance. They would definitely be at a disadvantage in terms of time. Chi. Cough cough. This is my weakness. I'll let you have it. Zhang Rongrong could no longer straighten his back. When he was about to collapse, he knew that he had reached his limit. He had no choice but to activate the guardian light in advance and announce his withdrawal. This guy's face was glistening with blood and sweat. His face was the same color as his clothes. At this moment, he finally had the strength to look at the 5 people who were still standing. When he saw Gao Dezhuang and Qin Hao's appearance, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Their bodies are actually so strong. Qi. As soon as Zhang Rongrong withdrew, the Buddha-like Bailey Liancheng also activated the guardian light and said, "Motherfucker, there's so much flesh, it hurts to pull, I'm too manly, pulling so hard that my balls hurt." Stop. Jing Tiangang also activated the guardian light a second later than Bailey Liancheng. The words he said were even more shameless. "Spit on your face. If I knew you were like this, I wouldn't have retreated. Even if you die, you still have to drag it out with me." Bailey Liancheng scolded Jing Tiangang. "Fuck, then don't retreat. I beg you. No means no. In 1 second, I'm the boss." "What? These 2 guys are so strong." Jing Tiangang turned his head and saw Qin Hao and Gao Dezhuang. He was immediately surprised. "Our Zhuang will definitely be first. Zhuang can be big or small, long or short. When he's big, his arms are thicker than your thighs. Zhuang, if you can't do it, then you can be smaller. Anyway, There are no outsiders around. Let them know your strength. Bai Xiaomei said proudly. She didn't feel that her words were awesome at all. Why did it sound like she was attacking Jing Tiangong's, pulling so hard that my balls hurt? Chapter 392. That's enough, what's the rush? Gao Dezhuang said proudly. The first king had wanted to persist, but after hearing everyone's conversation and seeing that Gao Dezhuang dared to speak, he knew that there was not much hope left. He could feel how strong Qin Hao's blood qi was. Thus, he did not torture himself and simply activated the light of protection, announcing his withdrawal. Qin Hao, I didn't expect you to be so strong. I can at least hold on for half an hour here, there's no pressure. Why? Why don't we go deeper? Gao Dezhuang looked at everyone's surprised eyes, especially Bai Xiaomei's infatuated eyes, and wanted to show off his strength. He said proudly and provocatively. But it seemed that this sentence was a little long, and by the time he said it, he had started to tremble. It was obvious that under such terrifying pressure, he was a little weak. But he did not mind, he believed that Qin Hao would have difficulty speaking. But, okay. Then let's go. Qin Hao, who was sweating profusely, said. Although he didn't say much, his voice was calm, as if he was speaking normally. What surprised the crowd even more was that as Qin Hao spoke, he took a step forward. His figure was as straight as a sword, and his steps were steady. Every time he landed on the ground, there would be a loud thud. Gao Dezhuang was a little dumbfounded, his intention was to show that he was relaxed, and defeat Qin Hao psychologically. But he did not expect that not only did it not have any effect, but it also did as he said. If he could really shrink, it would be fine. The key was that he could not shrink now. If he had done it before entering, it would have been fine. But now, every cell in his body was under immense pressure, and if he activated it, it would probably collapse. But, since he had already said so, he could only brace himself and follow Qin Hao. Unfortunately. After a few steps, he fell to the ground with a bang, amidst Bai Xiaomei's screams. Immediately, a golden light flashed, and the light of protection rose. Why can't I? Qin Hao twisted his neck and a proud smile appeared on his face as he asked in surprise. Fuck. I made a mistake. It was definitely a mistake. I didn't control my strength well and my center of gravity deviated. Let's start again. I haven't even displayed my strongest physical body yet. That's right, that's right. Zhuang can also shrink a little, and increase its size by 2 times. FRB added. You can do that. If you lost, then you lost. Why do you have so many reasons? The first king upheld justice and said. It doesn't matter. Then you can shrink back. Let's continue. Qin Hao said fearlessly. Forget it, forget it. I won't easily reveal my trump card. No matter how close I am to someone, I still have to keep a low profile. You win. Gao Dezhuang waved his hand and said. However, in his heart, he was scolding himself for being careless. As the leader, shouldn't you treat us to a drink and celebrate? We don't have high requirements. Let's just find a tavern. The one called Ocean Sky Tavern will do. Zhang Rongrong, who was dressed in a red robe, stroked the long hair in front of his forehead. He didn't have any awareness of being a follower and said very provocatively. Yes, yes, yes. Just find a private room on the top floor of the Ocean Sky Tavern and pay attention to it. Temporary leader, this is the first thing a leader has to do. You can't be so stingy with such a small amount of money. Jing Tiangang also said. These 2 fellows were clearly deliberately making a fool of Qin Hao. When they paid the second day's fees at the cultivation hall, it was the first king who paid for it. However, Qin Hao didn't say anything about returning it to the first king. The first king didn't care. They also didn't care. However, it let them know that Qin Hao might be a poor man. After all, Qin Hao came from the eastern continent, of course, no problem. It's just a small tavern. I guarantee that you'll drink well. Qin Hao said with a faint smile. Cough cough. Qin Hao, you just arrived at distant Song City. Don't listen to these two fellows. The Ocean Sky Tavern is the largest tavern in distant Song City. Even the lowest price on the first floor is. Hey, First King, what do you mean? Are you looking down on the temporary leader? You're still calling him Qin Hao. You have to call him temporary leader. Our proud heaven has just been established. How can the temporary leader not pay a bit of blood to celebrate? Let's get to know each other. In the future, we will fight side by side. The straightforward first king was only halfway through his sentence when he was interrupted by Bailey Liancheng. That's right. It's just a drink. How can our temporary leader be reluctant? Why talk about money? It hurts our relationship. Gao Dezhuang also chimed in. Obviously, other than the first king, these fellows wanted to rip off Qin Hao. Although they believed that they would be the ones paying in the end, it was also good to let Qin Hao make a fool of himself. Otherwise, this temporary leader would be too awe-inspiring in front of them. What if it was too convenient and it became official? Yes, yes. Gao Dezhuang is right. Talking about money hurts our relationship. Originally, we were going to gather enough primal crystal stones to pay back the 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones that the first king helped us pay. How am I going to talk about it now? Wouldn't this hurt our relationship as brothers? Qin Hao looked at Gao Dezhuang sympathetically and said in all seriousness. Hearing Qin Hao's words, the first king didn't feel that there was anything wrong. It was only 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Although it wasn't a small amount to him, he didn't put it in his eyes to make friends with a brother like Qin Hao. And Qin Hao's words, in his opinion, were also reasonable. If he really paid it back, would he still want it? Hurting their relationship as brothers was too polite. Let's go. It's my treat. Qin Hao said straightforwardly. Wait. Zhang Rongrong suddenly said. What's wrong? You want to gather 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones? Gather? Why talk about money? It hurts our relationship. Let's drink first. I haven't drunk in a long time. This time, I have to drink enough. I don't ask for the best, but the most expensive. What money? So vulgar. Qin Hao said as he pulled the sisters and took the lead to walk forward. Fuck. Jing Tiangang, Gao Dezhuang, Zhang Rongrong, and Bailey Liancheng all stared at each other. How could there be such a thick-skinned person? He should be embarrassed and ashamed, but this poor guy seemed to be taking it for granted that he was poor. It was obvious that he wanted to drink and make them pay in the end. What was the top floor of the Ocean Sky restaurant? If 10 people went to drink, the lowest cost would be 100,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. It was definitely a synonym for luxury. How could ordinary cultivators afford it? Only monstrous people like them, who were rich, didn't care. But Qin Hao's, I don't ask for the best, but the most expensive, really scared these guys. That was definitely something that couldn't be bought without 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Don't look at me, I'm also very poor. Seeing everyone's eyes focused on him, the initiator Zhang Rongrong hurriedly said. He looked at Gao Dezhuang and said, it's all because you said that talking about money hurts relationships. You pay. Fuck, who knew he was so shameless? You caused it, you pay. Don't embarrass yourself. Let's split it evenly. At most, we can drink 1,000,000. Proud Heavens is newly established. We should celebrate however much we want. Let's go. As the temporary second in command, Shi Wang directly said. The top floor private room. And, the most luxurious one. Chen Hao took the lead, and the two beautiful sisters stood on his left and right. They had an imposing and handsome appearance, and after they arrived at the luxurious Ocean Sky Tavern, they faced the beautiful waitress who came to greet them and spoke with a proud expression. He had the air of a rich lord. But just as this guy finished speaking, everyone, including Shi Wang, almost fell down. The most luxurious one. Motherfucker, this probably wouldn't even be worth $1 million. Chapter 393. The beautiful waitress was at most in her early 20s, and her cultivation was only at the golden core stage. When she saw the 10 people walking towards her, especially the man and 2 women walking in front, even though she had seen countless handsome men and beautiful women, she couldn't help but be a little surprised. She was at the age of yearning for love, so naturally her eyes focused on Chen Hao. She had a professional smile on her face. Although she didn't show any infatuated expression, the joy in her heart was obvious. After hearing Chen Hao's words, she was even more surprised. This is really a handsome, rich, and Prince Charming with a high cultivation level, but when the waitress dared to answer Chen Hao, she suddenly froze, and a touch of red appeared on her small face. Immediately, she looked at the crowd, a little nervous, a little embarrassed, and said, "I'm sorry. Sir, our luxurious private room already has guests. Then arrange for a private room on the top floor." Chen Hao carried a trace of a faint smile, his pitch black and deep eyes stared straight at the beautiful attendant as he spoke once more. "I'm sorry. Sir, all the private rooms on the top floor have been reserved." The beautiful waitress said again nervously, looking at Chen Hao, although she tried to hide it, but in the end, it was still a little strange. When Zhang Rongrong, Jing Tiangang, and others heard the waitress' words, they were relieved, and secretly happy. Why are they all full? It's not easy for me to treat my brothers to a drink. Your hotel business is really good. Forget it, just arrange a private room. Chen Hao seemed a little depressed and said. Okay. Please follow me. The beautiful waitress's face was a little red, and she obediently led Chen Hao and others to a private room on the second floor. The lowest price for a private room on the second floor was 200,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Under normal circumstances, the lowest price was enough. But if they ordered the most expensive wine, they still couldn't resist. Follow us to the most expensive. After stepping into the private room, Chen Hao said again like a lord. No, temporary boss, the most expensive wine is boring, our proud heaven is established for the first time, the most expensive wine is exciting. Before the pretty attendant could say, sorry, Gao Dazhuang interrupted her. Yes, the fiercest, heart-piercing fire. Waiter, I want that. 100 bottles first. This is what men drink. Jing Tiangang immediately said. Hearing everyone's words, Chen Hao smiled and looked at them, saying, this is what you guys want. So be it. Tan Hui, Bai Xiao Mei, Huan Huan, Lei Lei, what do you guys want to drink? I'll just drink tea. Tan Hui, who was a good wife and mother, said softly with a faint smile on her face. How can that be? We women can't be outdone by them. This wine is made from spirit items of heaven and earth. It's good stuff. Besides, this is proud heaven's wedding. We have to drink it. Bai Zhao's voice was so sweet that it was as if she was a heroine among women. Little Hui, then drink less. It's fine. I'm happy today. Zhang Rongrong said. Hearing Zhang Rongrong's words, Tan Hui nodded. He didn't say anything more. We can't drink alcohol. The sisters couldn't help but interject. No, no, we have to drink even if we can't. We're all family. It's fine if we get drunk. We can go back and refine ourselves. Bai Xiao Mei said strongly. At the same time, she looked at the pretty attendant, saying, "In addition to the wine, bring us some food." "I'll take a look at the menu." Bai Xiaomei took the menu from the pretty waiter and ordered a bunch of food. To cultivators, eating was something they could do without. Other than a few extremely greedy people who often ate, the vast majority of people would only eat on such occasions as a form of enjoyment. Cultivators were like boats going against the current. They were constantly cultivating. Who would delay their cultivation for a fixed period of time every day just to eat? That was impossible. It's not that they didn't like to eat, but they didn't have time. After Bai Xiaomei finished ordering, the pretty attendant put away the menu and looked at Chen Hao, saying, "Do you want anything else?" "That's all," Chen Hao said with a smile. "Okay." The beautiful attendant responded and turned to walk out. "Thank you, little beauty. These guys are all prodigals. As their big brother, I really can't bear to see them squander." Chen Hao said telepathically. You're welcome." The pretty attendant, who was blushing, paused for a moment and said with a trembling voice. In reality, Chen Hao was just joking with this bunch of fellows. Although there weren't many ready-made primordial crystal stones, there were still 3 million high-grade primordial crystal stones and 200,000 top-grade primordial crystal stones. According to the basic exchange rate, it was still 5 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. Not to mention how much wealth he had. Even Chen Hao couldn't estimate. Anyway, it was enough for him to squander. But if he didn't have to waste, he wouldn't waste. This was his principle. The food and wine were quickly served. Everyone started to fight, and Chen Hao, the temporary boss, was undoubtedly the target of everyone's bombardment. Even the beautiful sisters suffered. What surprised Chen Hao was that this so-called heart-piercing fire was the strongest wine that Chen Hao had ever drunk in this world. It was not inferior to the wine on earth. What was even more amazing was that this kind of wine couldn't be dissolved even by activating his true yuan. When he drank it, he felt a burning sensation from his throat to his heart. In an instant, he felt light and floaty. This made Chen Hao realize that in this world, there was still good wine. Just that, in less than 5 minutes, the beautiful sisters collapsed on their seats. Their faces were red, and they looked even more beautiful. They leaned on each other and could no longer stay awake. Chen Hao took out 2 long robes and covered the 2 of them, letting the 2 of them lean against the exaggerated chairs to sleep. If women don't get drunk, men don't have a chance. Temporary boss, how is it? The brothers are treating you well, right? Come, let me toast you again. Let's drink again. Jing Tiangang looked at Chen Hao and said. These 2 girls might be pretending. Temporary boss, don't waste their good intentions. Bai Xiaomei laughed and said, back then, my family's zhuang was taken by me like this. Hee hee. Pfft. Chen Hao and Jing Tiangang spat out the wine that they just drank. Damn, is there a better Taoist companion than this? Say, it's fine if you're a woman who's big and tall, but why do you have to babble on and on with such an annoying voice? It's fine if you only have this kind of voice, but why do you have to say something that doesn't match this kind of voice at all? You even have to giggle, ahem. Xiao Mei, I didn't pretend to be drunk back then. So you're saying that you're not willing? No. I was drunk when I saw you. Wine doesn't intoxicate people, but people get drunk on themselves. These 2 people completely disgusted everyone. Other than Tan Hui, whose face was red, who still had a smile on her face, she didn't have any reaction. Zhang Rongrong, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Liancheng, and Chen Hao all had a vomiting expression. On the contrary, the tall and strong first king looked at the 2 with envy. Yes, it was envy. Damn, temporary boss. Brothers, let's toast to Ao Tian. This cup of wine, I'll say the ugly words first. Tomorrow, Ao Tian will start to accept missions. Within a month, whoever obtains the highest number of points will be the leader. Whoever can maintain the lead for half a year will be the final leader. What do you think? Zhang Rongrong said. No problem. However, we have to calculate the points by individuals. Taoist companions can't compare your points to ours. Of course. The recorder can record everything. Zhang Rongrong said. 2 hours later, the 100 square meter heart-piercing fire was finished. Gao Dazhuang didn't know if it was because the wine didn't intoxicate him, but he was drunk, or if he was really drunk. Anyway, he was carried by Bai Xiaomei in her arms and didn't even let out a fart. Zhang Rongrong, who was originally fine, suddenly fell onto the table and started snoring loudly. Soon after, as if they sensed something, Beili Liancheng and Jing Tiangang also fell onto the ground with a peng-peng sound, looking like they were unconscious. First King and Qin Hao stared at each other. Tan Hui smiled apologetically. Bai Xiaomei did not even look at Qin Hao and the First King. She looked at Gao Dazhuang, who was sleeping soundly, with a disgusting look in her eyes. She sat down and looked at the sleeping Gao Dazhuang as if she was looking at a treasure. Damn it! First King couldn't help but curse. He looked at the waiter who was waiting at the door and glanced at Qin Hao from time to time and said, "Pay the bill." The total is 238,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. The beautiful waiter said. This is 250,000. Keep the change. When First King was about to take out the primordial crystal stones, Qin Hao took out a storage ring and passed it to the beautiful waiter. He said, "The rest is for you to cultivate." Ah! The beautiful waiter was shocked. Cough cough. First King looked at Qin Hao in surprise. Talking about money hurts feelings. I am the boss. Can't I treat you guys to a drink? It's a pity that the private room on the top floor is gone. Let's go. Fuck. It can't be. What a loss. Beili Liancheng, Jing Tiangang, Zhang Rongrong, and Gao Dazhuang all stood up. They didn't look drunk at all. Qin Hao carried the sisters with each hand. The sisters' heads were placed on Qin Hao's neck. They were like 2 sheep waiting to be slaughtered, soft and soft. Zhang Rongrong and the others followed behind in high spirits. Under the beautiful waiter's gaze, they gradually disappeared. When Qin Hao and the others disappeared, the beautiful waiter's slightly red and shy face revealed a faint smile. The corners of her bright red lips curled up slightly. His entire aura seemed to have changed into another person all of a sudden. Although she was beautiful, she was like the little sister next door. But now, although her clothes didn't change at all, she gave people a feeling of being high and mighty. Eastern Continent Qin Hao, Heavenly Mist Cities Lin Clan's beautiful sisters, Eastern Sea Islands Zhang Rongrong, Tan Hui, Northern Continent's Gao Dazhuang, Bai Xiaoxiao, Mei. Song Yuan City's First King, Beili Liancheng, Jing Tiangang. The 10 people's names were clearly stated by the young girl. Chapter 394. Miss Meng, how do you feel? When the beautiful waitress came to a room in the tavern's inner courtyard, an old man sitting in the room raised his head and asked. The layout of the room was very simple. There was a tea table with exquisite cups on it. 2 old men sat on the left and right of the table. If Qin Hao and the others were present, they would definitely recognize one of the old men. It was the old man in charge of helping them register the Guardian group. The other old man who asked the question was the owner of the tavern. Not bad. The age, natural talent, and cultivation of these 10 people are indeed rare geniuses. Especially that Qin Hao, even I feel a trace of a dangerous aura from him. The beautiful attendant spoke in a light voice. As he spoke, his body flashed with a resplendent light. Then, his appearance underwent a shocking change. She, who originally looked like a little girl next door, now looked like a beautiful and arrogant princess. Her features were picturesque and her skin was whiter than snow. What was more shocking was that her realm aura had changed to the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. She continued, however, they are still a plate of loose sand and are very arrogant. Such people can be fine as a single soldier, but definitely not as a group. A mountain can't have 2 tigers, let alone 6. Miss Meng, what do you mean? Let's observe for a while more. If first King, Bailey Liancheng, and Jing Tiangang saw this girl, they would be very surprised. It could be said that in the entire Songyuan city, any native would have heard of this girl's name even if they had never seen her before. As the leaders of the younger generation in Songyuan city, how could first King and the other 2 not know this girl? Meng Shiyao. Meng Shiyao, one of the granddaughters of the Meng family head of Songyuan city. She was one of the 2 most dazzling figures of the younger generation in Songyuan city. The other dazzling figure was the direct descendant of the Huyan family, Huyan Aobua. The 2 of them were stronger than first King, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Liancheng. The Meng family and Huyan family's current patriarchs were very close. When Meng Shiyao and Huyan Aobua were 10 years old, both families had arranged a marriage between the 2 of them. It could be said to be a strong alliance. In the beginning, when the 2 of them were young, they did not see each other and did not care about the engagement. However, when the 2 of them were 16 years old, the 2 great families started to let them interact with each other. To everyone's surprise, this pair of golden boy and jade girl were like natural enemies. Neither of them gave a damn about the other. But because of the relationship between the 2 families, neither of them could bring up the idea of breaking off the engagement. After all, no matter which side proposed to break off the engagement first, it would be very embarrassing for the other side. However, the 2 of them were very determined. Huyan Aobua and Meng Shiyao privately agreed that within 3 years, whoever had the highest level of guardian could propose to break off the engagement, and the other party would agree unconditionally. After stepping out of the tavern, the first King, Bailey Liancheng, and Jing Tiangang parted ways with everyone. Naturally, they all returned to their own clans. Zhang Ronghui, Gao Dazhuang, and the other 2 brought Chen Hao, who was carrying the 2 girls, to the entrance of the palace complex that was specially built for guardians. Zhang Ronghui and the other 3 had already rented a place, so when they arrived, they just greeted Chen Hao and went to their own palaces. Chen Hao, on the other hand, carried the 2 drunk girls to the entrance of the reception. Under the strange gaze of the waitress, he booked a palace that was big enough for the 3 of them to live in. It's really similar. Just as Chen Hao carried the 2 of them and found the number of his palace and used the token to open the palace door, a young man stared at Chen Hao's back and muttered. This figure was the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, Lin Hao. Brother, you've been following me all the way. What's the matter? At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly turned around. His eyes flashed with a sharp light as he looked at Lin Hao and asked. Cough cough. Lin Hao was slightly startled and said, Brother, this one is Lin Hao from Emerald Smoke City. I mean no harm. Emerald Smoke City. No matter who you are, it's not appropriate to be so sneaky, is it? Yes, I won't hide it from you. 2 days ago at the Alliance Palace, this one saw you. You really look too much like a friend of mine. How should I address you, brother? That brother of mine is from the Eastern Continent, surnamed Chen Hao. Lin Hao said awkwardly. In his opinion, the young man in front of him couldn't be Chen Hao. Therefore, when faced with the other party's questioning, he could only truthfully explain. Eastern Continent, Chen Hao. Hearing Lin Hao's words, Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded. His gaze looked up and down Lin Hao's face. When did I have such a brother? Yes, but it's a pity that my brother. Lin Hao shook his head and said, I'm very sorry to disturb you, brother. I live in this palace. Lin Hao finished speaking, cupped his fists, bowed, and was about to leave. In fact, he wasn't following Chen Hao, but the palace he was blocking was right next to Chen Hao's. Wait. Lin Hao, right? How come I don't remember having a brother like you? But what's wrong with me? Chen Hao called out to Lin Hao and asked rather strangely. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Lin Hao's eyes widened to the size of copper bells. Obviously, he was extremely shocked as he stared blankly at Qin Hao and said, You're Qin Hao. The Eastern Continent's Qin Hao. It's the real deal. How is this possible? You and Qin Hao weren't at the 9 Nether Frost Pool. Ah. I know, I must have guessed wrongly. After receiving Qin Hao's confirmation, Lin Hao's mind raced and he instantly understood what was going on. Without a doubt, the man and woman he saw at the 9 Nether Frost Pool back then weren't Qin Hao. Otherwise, the person in front of him couldn't be Qin Hao. When Qin Hao heard Lin Hao muttering to himself, his heart skipped a beat, and he frowned slightly. Obviously, when he and Qin Shui were at the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool, the young man in front of him had seen it before. You haven't been to the 9 Nether Frost Pool, have you? You mean the 9 Nether Frost Pool, one of the top 10 mysterious forbidden lands? Yes. I haven't been there, Qin Hao lied decisively. How do you know me? I don't think I've seen you before, right? Let alone brother. Ahem. Brother Qin, I'm really sorry. I really didn't expect you to be the Eastern Continent's Qin Hao. Although you don't know me, I know you. To tell you the truth, I'm the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. I learned about brother's situation from the appraiser and wanted to invite you to train together. I didn't expect you and your cultivation partner to leave early. Later, at the 9 Nether Frost Pool, I saw a young couple trapped in the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool. That couple really looked like Brother Chen and your cultivation partner. At that time, I felt very sorry. There's such a thing. Qin Hao pretended to be surprised and said. However, he had made up his mind to not reveal the slightest bit of information. Otherwise, if others knew that he and Qin Shui could enter the 9 Nether Frost Pool, they would be in big trouble. Perhaps those above the creation realm or even those at the immortal venerable realm would come to catch him. That's the truth. If I didn't know that you're Qin Hao, I would have thought that you. Fortunately, it's not you. Brother Qin, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Although we don't know each other, I even admire you. You and your cultivation partner killed 30 peerless geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands with one sword strike. It's very impressive. I won't disturb you today. Tomorrow, I wonder if you can do me the honor and let me treat you to a drink? Ahem. After hearing Lin Hao's words, Qin Hao realized that he was still hugging two charming women. He coughed awkwardly and said, another day. Tomorrow, our guardian group has already made an appointment to start the mission. Brother Qin, what guardian group did you join? Can I join you? The guardian group I was in was established by a few older brothers in Emerald Smoke City. Their guardians have all reached the 3rd level and left Songyuan City the day before yesterday. Not for now. We've just registered as a guardian group. We haven't decided on the real boss yet. Let's wait for another month, Qin Hao said with a slight frown. Although Qin Hao didn't know Lin Hao at all, he could feel that Lin Hao was not simple. It would be good if he could be absorbed into proud heaven. After hearing Qin Hao's words, Lin Hao pondered for a moment. Obviously, he didn't understand Qin Hao's words. But after hesitating for a moment, he said, okay, then I'll wait for your news. I'll be staying in this palace. Okay. After stepping into the palace with two soft and delicate bodies in his arms, Qin Hao was sober even though he was drunk. He didn't dare to have sex after drinking. He just casually felt the charm of the two women's perky buttocks and directly put the two sleeping women into separate rooms. Then, he walked into his own room and relaxed for once before falling into a deep sleep. What Qin Hao didn't know was that after he returned to his room, the sisters, who seemed to be completely drunk, opened their eyes one after another. They pouted their pink little lips and revealed a faint smile. Their rosy cheek seemed very cute. They touched their little buttocks one after another, and their little faces became even redder. After holding on for 2 hours and confirming that it was safe, Leng Ningle tiptoed to Leng Ninghuan's room. Sister, did you guess correctly? Not completely. He just didn't dare to touch us, he was hugging us so it wasn't very obvious. What do you mean by obvious? Don't tell me he touched here. Leng Ninggle said and reached out to touch Leng Ninghuan's soft breasts. Stupid girl, go away. Hurry up and go back. Don't let him find out. Otherwise, it'll be so embarrassing. It's already been 2 hours. Can't we sober up? Elder sister, are you in heat? You're the one in heat. You're the one who pretended to be drunk, not me. Just like what Gao Dezhuang and Bai Xiaomei said, if he really did that to us under the influence of alcohol, would you wake up? Do you even need to ask? We're just testing if he's a gentleman. Tisk. Go lie to others. I can feel it clearly. Why are you hiding it from me? Maybe he can feel it too. You're so excited. You're the one who got me excited. If not, I wouldn't be so excited. It's obviously you. It's you. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The young genius of the Yang family, Yang Fan, went crazy in recent years. No treatment worked and he became crazier and crazier. Only he knew that his craziness was because he was possessed by multiple souls. However, with his incredible willpower, he was unable to be possessed by the souls in his body. This time, just as he was about to fight with his life on the line, the grass wanted to possess him too. If they want to kill me, I'll kill them first. Swallowing the demon grass made Yang Fan's soul stronger and he destroyed multiple souls in one fell swoop. Other than fusing with their souls, he also gained the ability to communicate with all plants. Those who like urban novels can read it without worry. If you like this novel, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 395. The sky was getting brighter. The Alliance's mission distribution hall was bustling with activity early in the morning. There were groups of guardian groups and individual guardians. They all gathered under the mission distribution boards in the hall, waiting for the mission distribution time. There were a total of 10 mission distribution boards, and they were divided into level 1 to level 10 missions. Guardians who did not join the Guardian group could only take on missions of the same level as the other Guardians. The Guardian group could take on missions of a higher level than the Guardian group. This rule was to protect the Guardians, but to the talented and powerful Guardians, it limited their performance to a certain extent. Because of this, in order to facilitate the training of the independent Guardians, the Alliance also introduced a policy. The Guardian group could temporarily join forces with some independent Guardians to take on missions together. 30% of the points and rewards obtained by the independent Guardians would be taken by the Guardian group. The Guardian group could also join forces with other Guardian group. When their strength reached a certain level, they could take on missions. Exterminate the monsters in Sky Tiger City. Mission Level 3. Mission duration, 10 days. Reward points, 100,000. Reward, 1 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Requirements, 1 Level 3 Guardian Group, 10 Level 2 Guardian Group, 20 Level 1 Guardian Group. The number of Guardians must reach 500, 100,000 points, such a high reward. A large team mission. Take this. A large team can lead Level 1 and Level 2 Guardian Group. This is the favorite of the Wild Wolf Group. Hee hee. Finally, when the time came, a golden light flashed on the Level 3 mission distribution board, and a new mission appeared. A Level 3 Guardian Group, the Wild Wolf Group, took the initiative to grab a spot in the Level 3 Guardian Group as soon as they saw the mission. After a while, the name, level, and mission success rate of the Level 3 Guardian Group that took on the mission were marked at the bottom of the mission. The leader of the Level 3 Guardian Group also became the key person in choosing the Level 2 Guardian Group, Level 1 Guardian Group, and independent Guardians. First, to ensure the absolute leadership of the Level 3 Guardian Group. Second, only by choosing a suitable Guardian Group could the completion rate of the mission be guaranteed. The completion rate of the mission was an important indicator for the promotion of the Guardian group. For example, if a level 1 Guardian group wanted to be promoted to a level 2 Guardian group, they had to complete more than 100 missions. There was no limit to the level of the mission, but the completion rate had to reach 90% before they could apply for the promotion of the Guardian group. At this time, they had to complete 10 missions of the same level and the highest difficulty as the assessment. If they could complete all 10 missions, they would be promoted to level 2 Guardian group. If he couldn't, he would have to wait 2 months before he could apply again. Therefore, when the level 3 Guardian group chose level 2 Guardian group, level 1 Guardian group, and independent Guardian, it was also when the level 2 Guardian group chose level 3 Guardian group. If the level 3 Guardian groups did not have confidence in the level 3 Guardian groups and no one was willing to join, the mission could only be led by the other level 3 Guardian groups. There were only 20 minutes left. In fact, it was a two-way selection process. Welcome all powerful level 2 Guardian groups, level 1 Guardian groups, and individuals. There were limited spots, so they had to hurry. I believe everyone is very clear about the strength of our wild wolf pack. More than 20 cultivators from the wild wolf pack stood together, each of them exuding an extremely powerful aura. Even the weakest among them was at the mid-stage essence spirit realm. Their leader, who stood in the middle, was at the pinnacle of primordial spirit advanced stage. The wild wolf pack isn't anything good. We don't have any influence on our guardian pack. In any case, their mission completion rate is relatively high. Let's add him in. Many experienced level 1 and level 2 Guardian group and male independent cultivators said. Wild Wolf Protection Group. Mission completion rate, 95%. It was much higher than the 90% baseline. A Guardian group like this was considered one of the more outstanding level 3 Guardian groups. However, the Wild Wolf Protection Group did not have a good reputation. Just like their name, they were lustful. Although there was no evidence, the percentage of female cultivators who died in their missions was relatively high. The reward for eliminating an ancient city's monster is this little. How much can we get if there are a total of 500 people? However, the points are not bad. On average, each person will get 200 points, which is enough to cultivate in the cultivation dojo for 200 days. Among the crowd, Chen Hao and the others stood in front of the level 2 mission bulletin. After hearing the Wild Wolf Protection Group's shout, Chen Hao glanced at the mission introduction on the level 3 mission bulletin and thought to himself. What about the mission? We don't lack primordial crystals, but we lack points. The points for this mission are obviously several times more than the other missions. Why don't we work with them? The Wild Wolf Protection Group isn't anything good, especially towards women. If you guys aren't worried, I naturally don't have any objections. Jing Tiangang glanced at it and frowned slightly. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Liancheng were the first to pass the Guardian test. They had also received missions for a period of time, so they naturally heard a little about the Wild Wolf Protection Group. What are you talking about? I don't care about them. If they dare to have any evil thoughts towards Xiao Mei, I guarantee that I'll kill them until they're all generals without an army left. Humph. Gao Dazhuang glanced at the 20 over people in the Wild Wolf Protection Group and said with disdain. However, other than the first king who had a special sense of beauty, Chen Hao and the others wanted to tell Gao Dazhuang that he could be 120% at ease. If they dare to have evil thoughts, then we'll kill them all. Let's go. Chen Hao looked at Zhang Rongrong and Tan Hui. When he saw that they were not afraid, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly and he said coldly. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and walked towards the Wild Wolf Protection Group. The first king and the others looked at Chen Hao with a little surprise. As for Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, they were a little unconvinced. Obviously, when they said that they were all generals without an army, they were not confident that they could kill the leader of the Wild Wolf Protection Group who was at the peak of the late-stage primordial spirit realm. However, when Chen Hao said that he would kill them all, it meant that Chen Hao had the strength to do so. Hello. I'm Chen Hao, the leader of the Proud Heavens Protection Group. We would like to join. May I? Chen Hao said directly when he led the 10 people in front of the Wild Wolf Protection Group. Of course, of course. Welcome. Aren't you the first king, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Liancheng? What a strong group. I'm Hu Bolong. Nice to meet you all. When the members of the Wild Wolf Protection Group saw Chen Hao and the 10 people walking towards them, although they did not show it on their faces, they were already excited. Their eyes unconsciously glanced at the sisters and Tan Hui a few more times. Not to mention the two beautiful sisters, even Tan Hui was enough to make these guys a little impatient. How could they not agree? Moreover, although the auras of Chen Hao and the others were at the early stage primordial spirit realm, they were extremely strong. This was especially so when they knew the first king and the other two. After Chen Hao took out the Proud Heavens Protection Group's leader token and established a communication link with the leader of the Wild Wolf Protection Group, Hu Bolong, to confirm that they would join the mission, a young girl in black clothes and a black bamboo hat slowly walked in front of Chen Hao and the others. Hello. The young girl, whose appearance could not be seen clearly, cupped her fists and greeted Chen Hao and the others. What a strong aura, this young girl is not simple. Chen Hao and the others thought to themselves. The young girl's aura was extremely young. She was probably only 2 years older than Chen Hao. However, she was extremely strong. Based on her aura alone, everyone was certain that she was a super genius who was not inferior to the 10 of them. Hello, beautiful. Do you want to join the Proud Heavens? My name is Jing Tiangang, the future leader of the Proud Heavens. I welcome you to join us. Before Chen Hao could say anything, Jing Tiangang stepped forward and said enthusiastically. Although her face could not be seen and her figure could not be seen through the loose black robe, Jing Tiangang was tempted by the young girl's talent. Bullshit. Beautiful, I am the future leader of the Proud Heavens. My name is Bailey Liancheng. Nice to meet you. How should I address you? Meng Xiao, the young girl lowered her voice and said lightly. Ahem. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Liancheng, who were originally full of anticipation, became extremely embarrassed after hearing the young girl's words. They hurriedly returned to their original positions like mice who had seen a cat. Miss Meng. The first king said, a little surprised. Compared to the two guys who wanted to show off, although they were surprised, they were much better. You all know each other. As the temporary leader, Chen Hao, when he saw Jing Tiangang and Bailey Liancheng steal his limelight, although he was unhappy, he still suppressed it. He was very clear that if he wanted to convince these guys, without showing enough strength, it was absolutely impossible. However, after seeing the 3 people's surprised expressions after hearing the bamboo hat girl's words, Chen Hao was a little surprised and asked. Leader, Meng Xiao, Miss Meng is one of the leading figures of our Songyuan city's younger generation. Her battle strength is higher than mine. She is 2 streets higher than the 2 of them. The first king said rather respectfully, Chen Hao. Fuck. What do you mean she is 2 streets higher than us? Miss Meng, the 3 of us are 3 streets higher than you. Miss Meng, do you want to join the Proud Heavens? I'm not talking about this kind of temporary. If you want to join, Jing Tiangang will raise both hands and feet to support you as the leader. Jing Tiangang did not hesitate to choose a girl over a friend and said. The leader's position is for the capable. Miss Meng's strength is without a doubt. I, Bailey Liancheng, will also support you. Bailey Liancheng also said. Hello. I temporarily joined you guys to do this mission, is that okay? The primal crystal stones don't matter, I want the points to be the same as an official member. Meng Xiao did not even look at the 2 people who had long been scum in her heart and directly said to Chen Hao. Sure, welcome to join. Chen Hao said straightforwardly. With the first king and the other two's words, Chen Hao naturally would not treat this girl poorly in terms of points.